Good night, good night, good night, good night, opposition. Fall in line. How we doing tonight? How are we doing tonight? Tonight is a great, 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 great night. I see that some of you have been on very, very early. I see that Sony. Good evening, Sony. Sony said, good evening, everyone. As you come in, please like and share so the video can reach more people. We need it to reach more people. And the reason of a loyal opposition, the reason we need it to reach more people is what's happening right now, the discussion in the country about the water. Do you realize that it happened because Kimar coming on the show? Do you all realize that? Do you realize that it happened because Kimar brought it to light on this show, the Marcia Week show, where the opposition gathers at night. This is where the opposition comes together. And this is why Natasha C., Carol Barker, Kamar, hey Kamar, you're early tonight. Good evening, opposition members and leaders. Heathcliff, it feels like I missed you a little bit. Sonny AK, Pete Way, always here. Sharon O. This is why this is so important. I tell you, this is why it is so important. I see that like there. Come on, guys, like and share. This is a time that you do it. We have a great show lined up for you this evening. I'm getting this really bad glare in my glasses. I want to try to take it off. I can barely see anything with it off. But we have 4 young persons who are going to be on this evening, and they're going to be giving their opinion on what is happening in Barbados. I'm calling it that, I'm saying they're speaking truth to power. They're going to speak their truth about the government and what they see happening in Barbados today. So it's going to be important that I say share, because on this show, we get a lot of information, a lot of education. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. The media only picked it up because of Kimar. Right. They're way behind. We need a functioning media network. And that is what this show is showing them up. This show is showing them up. And I thank you all, Adrian, for joining. And I'm asking to share. There is a revolution. A revolution is happening in Barbados, and it's not with guns and it's not with cutlasses, as what happened at Springer. It's not like that at all. It is a revolution of the people. It's where the people are rising up, Adrian. This is a kind of revolution that is happening in Barbados, a revolution where the people are rising up and the people are taking their rightful place and saying, I understand my role and I understand what is happening, right? And we're going to look at that article, Glenn. Thank you so much, Glenn, for reminding me about that. Glenn Griffith. We're going to look at that article, and I want you to, as we're here, I want us to be part of it. I want you to be part of this discussion. Sometimes we forget, everything is going on, and especially when we had the education reform happening with the lovely Mrs. Corbyn. She was so amazing. We all got caught up in what she was saying and forgot some of the questions and comments. But we want to make sure that we're keeping in touch with that so that we can raise the questions that you have. And I think that is important. Don't forget, we are the opposition. Okay? And there is a reason. Listen, we are the opposition because of this philosophy, the philosophy of Ubuntu. Ubuntu says, I am because we are. Barbados is a way that it is because we have sat down for years and we have not done anything about it. We've waited on the politician. But I am because we are. It's Ubuntu. We need that Ubuntu philosophy, and that's a philosophy that we live by. That's a philosophy that that really impacted Rachel Lane. That's a philosophy. I am because we are. Barbados will get better when we begin to fall in line and do what it is that we are supposed to do. Yes? An effective opposition. What does an effective opposition do? Because our political system is based on open debate and political competition, where ideas meet, clash, and are accepted or rejected by majorities of citizens, the best ideas come from this confrontation. We're having this discussion on this show about water tonight, about Springer, about all that's happening in the country. And I believe that if our leaders listen, we can have the best solutions can happen because there is some kind of confrontation. The best ideas come from confrontation, this kind of confrontation, constructive. And so if there's no competition for power, the result is a lose-lose for everyone. With no competition, citizens find their voice is not heard and therefore retreat from politics. And that is really what, when you speak to a lot of Bajans, that's what's happening in the country. A lot of people are retreating from politics. They don't want to get involved because they feel like their ideas are not being heard. But in a democracy, when the government listens to the opposition, takes into consideration what's happening, what the people are saying, the people, we make up the best opposition there can be because we know what it is that we want. It's not them in a boardroom deciding for us. Having a smart, competitive opposition is not only good for the opposition, but it also pushes the government to do better. Isn't that what we want? We want the government to do better because when they do better, it is better for us. We get a better Barbados, and that's why we're on these nights, 4 nights a week. It's not to create a problem for the country. No, it's so that the government of Barbados could do better, rethink its action, and deliver to the citizens of Barbados what it is that we deserve. Deliver to the citizens what is best for us, the people. That really makes up Barbados. It's because of us. That's why it's Ubuntu. I am because we are. It is a new concept. I agree, Adrian. It's a new concept for Barbados, but Barbadians. But as Adrian said, it will take time to teach and educate them on using their awesome power for the benefit of themselves. It is time that we stop. I agree, Adrian. It's the time that we stop listening to politicians and waiting on politicians. And at their, we're just looking up to them, waiting on the crumbs, whatever falls from them. Yeah. I think that when we have an engaging citizenry, when we have an engaging opposition coming up from the people, a person like me and most of you out there, you're not interested in anything in politics. You're not interested in being in government, in politics, in running for whatever. I'm not interested in that. What I want is for the government to do better, whatever that government is, whether it is BDP, whatever the government is. That's how we get a great democracy. Democracy aims to preserve and promote the dignity and the fundamental rights of the individual, to achieve justice, foster economic and social development of the community, strengthen the cohesion of society, and enhance tranquility. That's what democracy does. Democracy is the best way of achieving these objectives. So when people say to us that, that when people say that, oh, well, what's happening is that people are just making trouble. These are people making trouble. You let them know, absolutely not. You're about a better Barbados and a stronger opposition. A stronger opposition will give you a better Barbados. Hurricane says, one of the members of the opposition says, the government and the cabinet are the representatives of we loyal sons and daughters all. They work for us, and when they cease to do so, we, the people, fire them. They are not our lords and masters, plain and simple. That's who we are. That's who we are. And I want us, the opposition, to understand that. Understand that every night that you open this link and you come on here, you come on for a better Barbados. What if we did not bring up this issue about the water? There would be no discussion about the water. In fact, someone brought it up on Brass Tacks the day after it was mentioned. Kimar spoke about it on the show. And what happened? The moderator on Brass Tacks dismissed it and said, no, it's not true. That would not happen in Barbados. Yes, go back and look at the files. The young man dismissed it. Only to later realize that it was so. Do you see why this program is so important? And I sat and listened to Brass Tacks repeating and playing portions of this program, playing recordings that we have done. This is the time that we come together. And don't you ever, even if you have to put on something while you listen, I know sometimes you might be doing, I meant if you could be doing something as while you're listening, because I know the programs are long. We're trying now to, get them down into half-hour segments and 10 minutes and 15 minutes. We cut it up because we understand that people might not have 3 hours to watch an entire thing, but this is important. And you know what I love about this, Charles, Mr. Belgrave, that there is nobody pushing a party. I know Kimar is associated with the DLP, but you don't hear Kimar on here pushing the DLP. That's what I like about what we're doing. Caswell for sure is not pushing any particular party. Speaking of whom, I'm not seeing him as yet. Let me make sure that I sent him. Okay, yes. I did send him the yeah. So we need to we need to make sure that we stay connected. Now let's look at a situation, guys. Let's look at it. There are 196 of us on at this stage, and I want us to take a closer look at what is happening at Springer Memorial School. Now, I know that a lot of us, including myself, initially, we were asking a lot of questions of the principal of the school, which we should, because she's the principal. And in the school setting, the buck stops with her. But the reality is that I have been given some very, solid information that leads me to ask some questions tonight. And one of the big questions that we want to ask tonight is, what role did the deputy principal play, if any, in the drill? And why this is important, because I said on this program sometime that it is very, very important that we begin at truth. It is important that we start at a place of truth. What really happened? Is it that the deputy principal was the mastermind behind this kind of operation. Because I looked at that principal and realized she's an older person and seemed very simple. Did she come up with this all on her own? Is it that the deputy principal who is really the mastermind, and the principal being someone of integrity, understanding that the buck stops with her? Is it that she came out and took all the blame? Is it true that the principal was away from the school for 2 weeks on sick leave when that drill was planned and all the contacts were made for the drill? You must remember, opposition. Remember, I run a school, a small school, but I understand that a lot of times the administrative function is very separate from what the principal. Okay, the administrative function is oftentimes separated from the principal. Okay, and in a school setting, the deputy principal is who carries out the administrative function. So even before I started getting the calls and the WhatsApp messages from reputable sources, I know that even Sunday, Mr. Franklin sent me something. So we were getting the information since Sunday. You must understand that all the details and the connections, that took a lot of planning. That took a lot of coordination. I produce events and I produce movies. And that was like producing a movie. They had to get actors, they had to get props, they had to get costume, they had to fix the setting. That's a lot of coordination. Who did all of that coordination? One thing I know, that it's not it's not the role of the principal of any school to do that kind of coordination. All communication, the lack of communication that happened between the principal, between to the teachers. I'm waiting on, I see Mr. Franklin is there. Don't worry, he's coming. I'm waiting on him to get set up, to get his headphones on and to get set up. I think he's setting up. But understand that it is not the role of the principal to get all of these things done. And I want to say to you that that is part of the reason I am understanding why there was a sick out at Springer Memorial School. Because according to the report in the newspaper, let me stick to that report and not say the other things that I know, is that they didn't get an apology from a certain person. Now we know that the principal apologized publicly, but I have not heard any apology coming from anybody else at Springer Memorial School. And this is why I say to us that until we can until we get important for it to make sense to us and for us to be able to move on, there must be truth. Yeah. Yeah. So I think that we need to understand that. Good night, Mr. Franklin. I don't know if you can hear me yet.
Yes, I can hear you. Good night, and thanks for having me again tonight. I came on today, but it was so hectic. I was trying to explain things to people, and one of the things I want to talk about is constructive dismissal. But we'll talk about that later.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
a lot of people are suffering, and they don't know that they have certain rights, and that's what that. It's going to be short, but it's going to be informative.
Yes, we're going to get to that soon. I was just starting the program speaking about Springer Memorial and the role of the deputy, because my phone is bombarded by people, who know, and saying what happened to the deputy and what role did the deputy play. Now I see that that Springer Memorial School, the teachers, they went on a sick out. I'm getting various reports in terms of numbers. Somebody said it was 11. The newspaper said 20. Another person told me there were 26 teachers that did a sick out, and their reason was that they wanted to get they didn't get an apology from who they believe was the mastermind of this whole thing. They didn't get an apology from that particular person. Do you have anything to say about that?
Yeah, yes. Well, my information comes from various sources, and sometimes I try to like not to bring out the more sensational ones because sometimes they might be a bit embellished. But what I
Hmm.
can tell you is that I heard the principal on the radio the same day when this thing was happening, or when it had
Hmm.
happened, with Stetson Bob.
Yes.
And then there was something on brass tacks. And then the deputy went on brass tacks trying to explain herself away. I thought that was silly and out of order because, but
Why?
first of all, you have to get permission. And I don't think they would have gotten permission from the ministry yet because the chief education officer was still bumbling her way through trying to fix things. So the chief education officer would have to go and get the minister's blessing for a principal or deputy principal to speak on behalf of the school to the public.
Hmm.
So that
So.
it was a whole set of nonsense going on, and everybody wanted to know cover themselves. You know what should have happened? They should have said, we made a mistake. We are so sorry. It didn't go as we planned, and ask for forgiveness. That's the easiest thing to do. When you're wrong, own it and move on. And that did not happen. People are still, and that's what's hurting these teachers to know that they were terrorists too. You think only the little girls were terrorists? I heard reports where the little girls had to try to calm the teacher because the teacher was so panicked and afraid that the little girls took over. And then they're telling me that the teachers knew because they informed them. Yes, Marcia, I can send you an email, and I will say, but
Hmm.
your phone could have been working. You weren't near Wi-Fi. You don't that kind of stuff, and so they sent an email around 8:30 or so when the people were already in class.
8:41. They sent
Yeah,
it at
yeah,
8:41.
right. Yeah, the 12 people were already in class or on their way to class, and you're not gonna have your phone out because it's not a good example to have your phone out, watch reading it in class. So when this thing happened, they were taken by surprise, and to take them by surprise, and then rather than apologize, you come out there and trying to make it look as though, or it was their fault because they should inform the children and that kind of stuff. They couldn't inform the children because they didn't know.
They didn't know. Yes, yes. And what we need to make clear, because I think if the teachers heard very late, we must understand that the communication and so on to teachers, generally that's done by, it's an admin function, and it's generally been done by the deputy. So we can't just focus on the principal alone, in my opinion. Now, those teachers, they had a sick out, Mr. Franklin, and yesterday, and the reports are, the newspaper said 20 of them had the sick out. Someone told me it was only 11. And then someone also told me it was 26. I'm not sure the number. But if we were to stick with the number from the newspaper said 20 of them had a sick out. But do you realize what happened? The BSTU, is that what you call the BSTU, says what? They did not sanction it.
The BSTU, there are two teachers unions. The BSTU is mostly in the older secondary schools because I'll give you the history. The older secondary schools, Commonwealth Harrison College Lodge, St. Michael's, uh, Foundation, Queens College, they were the older secondary schools. This is what you used to call the grammar schools. And the teachers in those schools had their union, Barbados Secondary Teachers Union. When BUT broke away from NUPW because BUT was a division of NUPW. And they were the NUPW Teachers Division, but they broke away and formed BUT. And the teachers that were in NUPW were mostly teachers in the primary schools and the newer secondary schools. Springer being one of the newer secondary schools, I doubt very much that there would be any lot of teachers in Springer that would be in the BSTU. The BSTU is only now interested in recruiting teachers from the other schools because they need the finances, because they were snobbish. You know, they didn't want the teachers from those other schools and their unions back then. You know, so they were in NUPW. And then BUT, when BUT came about in 74. But, so when BSU said they didn't sanction, I am hoping that's a mistake. Because who they're going to sanction? They're not generally expected to be members of Spare Memorial in BSTU. So I don't know what the fuss and the union who does that should be, the members should walk immediately. I can tell you why.
Agree. That's why I brought it to your attention.
Right?
Yes.
The members should walk immediately. The union is not the boss. The members are.
Yes.
The members of the union are really the union. The people that you see as the president and general secretary and all those people, they are in executive positions because everybody can't be there to run the union at the same time. So they're the secretariat. The secretariat has to take their instructions from the membership. So they do not come out and disavow anything. They have to go to their members and see what's happening. You know, I'll give you an example. When my union had the strike with the nurses, I didn't call the strike. I supported it because the nurses said, if certain things happen, we are going on strike. And I said, yes, well, I agree with you. And we wrote, I then, as the person in the secretariat, I wrote to the government and said, well, look, if these things happen, my members are going on strike. Because those are the instructions I get from my members. And I can assure you, because look, my members went on strike for 13 weeks. The longest strike Barbados ever had. You really feel like I can call people and ask them to strike for 13 weeks and not getting paid? I got so much power? No, it wasn't me. It was the nurses who are saying, well, look, this is what we want you to communicate to the government for me.
Yes.
For us. So we did exactly that. You take your instructions from your members. You do not walk out there and try to put your members out of work, because absence without permission is a major offense in the public service for which you can be dismissed. So the union should not be saying to the government, not me, because their job is to protect the workers' jobs.
Right.
So a union who came out and said that publicly, without conferring with their members, should be seeing those people decide, well, look, sorry, you are not working in my best interest, I gone.
So you're saying, you're basically saying, General, that when the unions come out and they say they did not sanction the Springer teachers' absence, they are really putting those teachers' jobs in jeopardy.
Yes.
Is it that they would know exactly what they're doing? These unions would know what they're doing, Mr. Franklin?
But if you are a trade union, you don't know that, you haven't been in a trade union. If you are a trade union, that's one of the first things you should learn. You cannot.
Wow.
You cannot. Absence without permission is a major offense in the Public Service Act. If you look at the Public Service Act and the 4th schedule, I always have it in my bag, even on Saturdays. So if 3rd schedule, sorry, it's these are the offenses that for which you can be dismissed. And they go unauthorized discuss information, blah, 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 blah. Let me see, go be separate from there. Yeah. Absence from duty without leave or approval. That's the first one.
Mm. Hmm.
That's the first offense. Because it says here in this code, misconduct of a serious nature means conduct that warrants the dismissal of the offending person. And in addition to the misconduct specified in 27B1 of the Code of Conduct and Ethics, includes the following. A, absence from duty without leave or approval. Criminal conviction, blah, 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 blah. But it goes on and on and on and on. So the very first offense is absence without permission. So the union, but mind you, the Trade Union Act, Section 40A of the Trade Union Act, protects industrial action. So if you took industrial action that is sanctioned by your union, it is a criminal offense for the employer to even threaten to take action against you. Mind you, the fine is not big. It's only $1,000 or 6 months in jail, but I could live with that, you know. But so union protection says your job. Because if the union says, okay, yes, we sanction this, then they can't take any action against you. The union is trying to say to the employer, you can fire these people because they walk off the job.
Wow. That is a low blow, considering that some of these teachers, they themselves are going through trauma as a result of what happened at the school, and they not knowing about it. I heard of a teacher who's, can't hear me? Not hearing me? Guys, are you hearing? Okay, we're not hearing Caswell. Okay. Yeah. But can you believe that, you know, I see Trevor is saying, wow, you believe that the unions could be setting up for these teachers to be that, so that you're telling me that the government could actually fire these teachers for standing up for their rights? And what is so unfair about this is that the unions were not even representing these teachers. The unions were basically saying, Mary Redmond was saying, let's get back to work. It's a mistake, and let's get back to work, when the teachers were there hurting. How could this? I want to see them try and fire these people in Barbados, and let me see if Bajans are going to stand up and let that happen to these teachers in this country. I want to see if you will stand up. Opposition, would you stand up and let this happen to the teachers at Springer Memorial School? I agree. The teachers should remove their subscription from the unions with immediate effect. Your media said the unions sell you out. Mr. Franklin is trying to get back in. He's having a little trouble. Let's see if he's in now.
Yeah. I'm in again.
Yes.
I don't know. We have some gremlins trying to stop me from talking. It might be union gremlins.
They can't stop you. Somebody here is saying the teachers should stop their subs to these unions with immediate effect.
They should start them sooner than that. You know, honestly, you are selling them out. You cannot do that to your members. These are the people that you exist to protect. That is your job. Your job, even if you had to call them to a meeting and say, let me tell you something, don't do that nonsense, you don't do this. You quarrel with them after the fact. But you don't go in the newspapers and tell everybody that it me, not me, because these union leaders don't want the prime minister to be vexed with them, you know. Because they're all them looking for something. You know, when I saw that today, you know, I didn't read the whole article. When I saw it today, I got angry. You know, some people might want to cry, but I got angry to think that this is what trade unionism has come to. You know, you are now in the business of throwing your members under the bus.
That is sad, Mr. Franklin. Very, very sad. It's sad that it gets you angry. And I want to say to the 305 of you that are on listening this evening, this is why this show is so important. We have on our show someone who understands the union and is able to break it down to us, right? And most of us, when we saw that this today, we understood what was going on. But what I didn't understand is that, the effect that they could be fired for taking care of themselves, right? And
It,
and
it,
and go ahead,
you
Mr.
see, look,
Franklin.
people believe that you can call in sick and that is it. And you can say, but you got 2 sick days first. That is true technically. But you have to get those sick days have to be approved by the head of the department. If the principal of the school said we are not, because I don't believe that you were sick, that you were absent without permission, the principal does not have to approve those days. This I'm not making this up. These are the rules. The head of the department is supposed to approve sick leave that is not certified by a doctor. If the doctor certifies it, the principal ain't got no choice. Right? But then the principal said, no, something, all these people sick one time and that can't be sick. I ain't approving this. And the principal would have the right to do so. But now, if the people had said, we second out, because second out is a legitimate industrial relations tool. Strike is the highest form of action that you can take, because we can't beat people, even though sometimes you would like to, but you can't. So you can work to rule. Just only do what you're supposed to do. You can go slow. All of these things are actions that the union can take. I remember when Frank Walker had problems with the government, a transport board, the buses don't go slow, and the buses drive at 2 miles per hour. And what you can do? Go and run past the bus if you like, but there's not more you can do. But a union does not go there and speak against their members, not publicly. You call them in the office and abuse
Oh
them.
wow. But this what this underscores, Mr. Franklin, and to the loyal opposition that's listening, it's a state of um the state of the environment, the kind of political environment that we have in Barbados. It underscores what is happening in this beautiful country. Think about it. I want you to think about it, Barbadians. It's a country where there is no opposition in parliament, and we have one functioning union out of what, 3 or 4 unions. All the other unions are working in tandem with the government. Do you understand the state of Barbados? Do you understand the seriousness of what's going on? And this is why we're inviting you, the loyal opposition, to come up to Parliament on Sunday. Come out on Sunday at 5 o'clock, right there at Baxter's Road and Westbury Road, at the stoplights there, the WESTBURN Mall. I know you have a lot of things going on, but it's whether or not we're going to allow our beloved country to be destroyed. We're in a very serious situation in Barbados, very serious.
We have a situation where the wrong people get involved in unions for the wrong reasons. They get involved with the unions because if you're a union activist and the government sees me, it can get by off. A lot of people, right? A lot of people get involved in trade unions to see how far they can get. They don't go and study. They don't go and better themselves. You see, all over at NUPW, right now we got a clerical officer who is the president of the union. So she wants to ride the presidency of the union up to higher heights. I understand she's looking to run for any elections. It's St. James North. But that is the problem we have. People are there looking to see what the unions can do for them and not the other way around. When you have that mindset, keep away from the unions.
Yes.
You know, somebody
somebody this,
said
yeah,
union members.
go ahead, read
No,
it, sir.
somebody said union members so many times. Do you have to be betrayed and sold up before you fire the union leadership or walk away? How many blows you going to lay down and take before you stand up? And he says, rise. You know, good question. Because
It is.
the unions have sold out. The the major thing with the unions, and I will never forget this, and I will talk about it every time I get opportunity. The unions got on the side of management, capital, whatever they're calling it, and sided with them and the opposition at the time, Mayor Motley, to demonstrate against the NSRL, which, to my mind, was the better tax that we had for years. That there was no tax that was better than that, because what was happening, the government put this tax in place and said, if you want your goods to the harbor, you got to pay this tax. If you want to go to the airport, you got to pay this tax. But the merchants could not stand that because they couldn't steal it. They can steal the VAT. And they stole millions of dollars of VAT, over $1 billion in VAT, as far as my reckoning. And you couldn't steal that. And the unions got involved with the merchants and demonstrated against the last administration. I'm not saying that the last administration was perfect, but when they did something right, the unions fought them.
Right. I'm really hoping. I'm very what I'm listening to you, and I'm just saying that really, Barbadians, I don't know how much more we can take, because if this reached the stage now where the teachers are going to be victimized, this is what this is all about. I'm seeing this newspaper article here is setting up the teachers to be victimized. This is wickedness at the heights. Wickedness, wickedness, wickedness. Not allowed. Not allowed. And we should not, as a people, we should not sit by and let this happen.
You know,
Yeah?
but what are you going to do? The union leadership um seem to have the membership tied. Just recently, um, well, up to yesterday, 89 people from the Barbados Revenue Authority joined my union. 89.
89.
89. That does not
Oh,
speak to
God.
a membership that is satisfied with what, and mind you, their general secretary is a member of the board of the Barbados Revenue Authority.
Mm-hmm.
89. When they count them, I asked my assistant to count them yesterday, and she counted 89. And someone,
89. So
it,
let's hold a minute there, General. 89 from Bra
yes,
joined the Unity Union,
over the
because
last
that
couple of weeks.
over the last couple of weeks, because the truth is, I know you don't come on here to promote the union, but the truth is that is the only working union in Barbados, and that's why the people are sending the information, the stuff you have in your phone from Springer, because they believe that you are the man that can help them, and they see that you're standing up for people. Because when you look at what is happening at the Widow Springer teachers, they need somebody to stand up for them. They should not be beaten twice, Mr. Franklin. It's not right, because 3 times, because even the public was beating them when they didn't realize that they didn't know what was going on.
You see, the public come out too quickly and make their statements without getting the facts. I will never forget an instance where customs officers were vilified and abused by people on the call-in program, and all they were doing was to trying to protect the people in Barbados from paying excessive duties on the barrels that were coming in. Now, let me explain that to you. When PriceSmart came to Barbados, it was brought here by Barbados Shipping and Trading. It was some sort of joint venture. The chairman of BS&T at the time said that the people who go to Miami and bring all those barrels wouldn't need to do that anymore, because everything that they could get in Miami, they could get at PriceSmart. But the people were still going to Miami and getting the stuff because the prices were really high.
Mm-hmm.
And the same chairman of BSNT at the time complained that the only way people could be still going to Miami is if the customs officers were not charging the correct duties on the items that came in.
Yes.
And they recommended that they put up cameras and focus them on the officers doing the examination. And the officers rebelled and said, no, 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 but I'm putting the cameras for me when they're working. And people say, oh, they want to do this and they want to do the third, and the curse the customs officers. What the customs officers were doing was charging people, poor people, didn't charge them the full rate. And the people in this country curse the customs officers because the merchants wanted them to pay the higher rate, and they didn't even understand the customs officers were protecting them. But they jumped in and started cursing them. And they said, and a lot of customs officers felt really hurt because they were helping the poor people, you know. Because
Wow.
sometimes you know that you have things in your barrel that if you take them and itemize them, you can pay have a lot more duty. And then the officer said, well, look, your items and they're worth
Right.
$500 and we can pay
Yeah.
the jury on $500. No, but the people in this country curse the customs officers and they were hurt. Same thing, they get up as a curse the teachers now, without having the facts. I know the thing about it. I don't hear anybody come in and say, you know something, I was in brass tacks yesterday and they said certain things about customs officers and it was wrong. They move on to something else. Same thing that will happen with the teachers. You're not going to hear some the same people who vilify the teachers come out and say, I am sorry, I made a mistake, I acted in haste. They're not going to do it. They're too proud for that.
Well, look at what's happening now, which should have happened before. No, I call her the little stooge, of the Minister of Education, Ramona Bradshaw. I know she's your girl, but let me tell you something. She now finally meets with the teachers, okay, and says that, let me see the article here. The school is now closed because I knew from Monday nothing was happening at the school. Springer Memorial School will be closed for the next 2 days. CEO Dr. Ramona Archer Bradshaw met with staff and some students at the school this morning and has determined that they need a break following last week's simulation exercise. Now, Mr. Franklin, you don't think that this is something that they should have done very, very earlier up?
That should be the first day. The problem is we have a culture of cover up in Barbados. If something goes wrong, you try to cover it up first. And then if you fail in the cover up, then you end up doing the right thing. But they are always in the cover up mode. And you said that the chief education officer is my girl. I met her once or twice. No more. She's not my girl. What I am saying to you is that some of the things that people are saying, she is one of those people who take instructions. She is not the leader.
Mm-hmm.
The
I
person
understand.
the person who should resign is the minister, because the minister is responsible for his or her department. And if the chief education officer took certain actions, then she could be dismissed. She could be disciplined, but um, but she will have to be tried. The permanent secretary can recommend to the commission that certain steps be taken. So, and you will see that she was been doing what she was instructed to do, and
So
not
really, we should be focusing on the K McConney, which
yes,
obviously she's not budging, and
and
there
Mayor
doesn't seem
Motley
to be, yeah, and Mia Motley,
and Mayor
both of them,
Motley. I can tell
yeah.
you why. If you had a chief education officer who was a chief education officer worth his salt or her salt, that officer would be able to say to the minister, in accordance with the code of conduct and ethics, paragraph 11. If you were 11 and 13, 11, 12, and
Mm-hmm.
13, basically. What it
Mm-hmm.
basically says is that if you were asked to act in a way that is illegal, improper, or unethical, or you breaching any professional standards or any accepted code, or it might involve maladministration, you can take certain action. Now, if the minister, you disagree with the minister,
Right.
according to section 13, paragraph 13, I'm a regulation, it's paragraph 13.2. Let me read it for you. Where the permanent secretary disagrees with the minister on a matter involving a decision by a minister or by the cabinet, the permanent secretary shall place on record his disagreement with any decision or proposed course of action which the permanent secretary finds difficult to defend or which he regards as inconsistent with his obligations to see that the administration of his department is carried out with due regard to propriety of the proposed course of action, and he shall set out the reasons for his disagreement. No, but that happens when you have a person who is permanently appointed that you can't fire unless you have cause. But Mayor Motley decided that heads of departments and staff should be on contract for 3 years. So you are there for 2 years, and your third year, the government does something stupid. You think you can tell the prime minister and the thing that they shouldn't do that? But your contract can get renewed? And what can happen to your mortgage? The government does not understand public service or how public service should work. Or if they do understand, they don't care. Because every road must lead to the prime minister and to Robert Street. So if you're not drinking from the Barbados Labour Party Kool-Aid, you know, you're not supposed to work in this country. I have defended more Dems since this government came in than all the other years Unity was in existence, and that is since 2010. Because they're finding everywhere to attack the Democratic Labour Party people, supporters and members.
Wow. You know, and this is why I'm saying to us all, Mr. Franklin, that the sooner we recognize who we are and recognize that we are the opposition, the people, and we stand up to this government. If we don't stand up, think about it, Mr. Franklin. We're living in a country where majority of the unions, all of the unions except one, they are sold out to the government. We're living in a country where the government has all the seats in parliament. So where is the dissenting voice? Where is the alternative view? This is why the 346 of us on here tonight, we are so very important. We are so important. It's so important that you log on. It's so important that you come on Sunday, 5 o'clock. Make your voice be heard. Bring your ideas. Bring your ideas. They're throwing somebody under the bus. They're throwing the teachers under the bus. They throw the children under the bus. And it's a blue and Barbados, you know. They throw everybody under the bus. Right? I think Dave is putting up the ad for us to play. Is that the ad, Dave?
Yes.
Just a picture, right? Right. So you know, I think we need to come out, you know, Mr. Franklin, to the roadside parliament. Share your thoughts. I know some of you are writing it tonight. Take the microphone and talk about how you feel and make your recommendations. It's not just complaints, but make your recommendations. You know, Mr. Franklin.
Yeah, you know what we did was innovative by getting the audience to get up and speak and ask us questions. You know, no political party in Barbados will do that because they're afraid of the backlash. Well, I'm not worried about any backlash because I'm not looking. And I'm sure you're not looking to be Marcia Weeks MP.
I'm telling you, definitely not. Definitely not.
So we don't have that baggage. So we can get out and we can be honest and completely honest. Tell the truth. And without any varnish. You know, the unvarnished truth. We can do that because we are not looking there. We don't have our hands out. I cannot say the same thing for most of the other union leaders in Barbados. They're looking for something,
Mm-hmm.
and it's hurtful, because they are deceiving people.
They are. They are. This whole government. I mean, I have the young people coming up in another 4 minutes, and I know you had something else, but I mean, you're gonna be able to come back
We
in
can
at the
we can
end
do that another day because
another
this construct.
time.
I only did that talk about that today because I had two people coming in today. They were treated very badly at work, and they was taking it because we were there long, and I soon come to retirement, that kind of stuff. No, I just so I wanted to talk about that, but that is not something that right now is absolutely urgent, and we could do it another time. So let me talk
Mm-hmm.
to the young people, because let the young people let they hear their views.
Yeah, they are coming up, and as they're coming up, let me just read some of the comments here, because I want the opposition to know that you are part of. It's not Caswell and Kimar and Miss McLean when she's on, and Rose Corbin, and all these. It's you. It's all of us. We make up the opposition. And tonight, as Caswell says, that's what I love about Caswell. He's open to listen to everybody. And I'm so excited to hear from these young people. But let's also hear from some of the comments that's coming up. Miss McLean says, or her comment is so big, I can't put it on the screen. She says, I'm not surprised at the comments made by Mary Redmond. One has to ask where her loyalty really lies. I cannot understand any of her comments on this very damaging situation. Has she taken time to follow up on the students and staff at Springer Memorial? What the public has heard from Miss Redmond is an attempt to minimize the tragic fallout of a poorly planned and executed matter. I'm yet to hear from her if she has sought to get the details of what transpired. And that is so true. That is so true. We don't know. Somebody says, I want to make it clear that knowing what the work entails does not mean a person need to lead. We see that with the PM, right?
That's great. True.
It doesn't mean that they have to lead. I agree. They don't have to lead, right? Somebody's Sonia is saying Wendell Greenwich, most persons are members of a particular union for medical coverage which is not offered by other unions. So
Let me
yes, go
jump
ahead.
in there with you. There is, if you are a member of a credit union, there's something called Co-op Med. You do not have to be in any medical scheme at any union, because Co-op Med, and from my understanding, it's a better program than what they have elsewhere with the unions. So check with, and I don't want to advertise it for the people, but check with Co-op Med. It's a program that was designed by a credit union member for credit unions back in 1994, and is still in
Mm-hmm,
existence.
mm-hmm,
Um, I'll be a bit modest and say, well, that credit union member was a fellow called Caswell Franklin, and it is still operating today. And I don't hear any complaints. I don't hear anybody talking about how they suffered as a result of being there. So try there, see what happens. Sometimes they have open enrollment sessions where you don't have to get medical exam and all kind of stuff when they're trying to recruit more people. Check with them and see when that is happening and join. You don't have
mm-hmm,
then to be a member of a union and pay union dues and then the medical insurance. You can join Co-op Med. Trust me,
mm-hmm,
it is for credit. You have to be a member of a credit union though.
mm-hmm,
But being a member of credit union does not cost you. Credit union you save or you borrow, but you don't have to
mm-hmm.
pay any dues to a credit union when the month comes. So
Yes,
check it out.
yeah. Well, thank you all for the comment and for that explanation. Um, yes, Ramim, we missed you early. We missed you earlier. Usually one of the first ones on. Yes, so somebody said yes, they forgot about the credit union. Somebody said true Caswell, I'm in the Co-op Med, and that's what happens on the show. We get to answer any questions that you may have, right? Don't forget the roadside parliament is going to be coming up this Sunday. How many of you come into the roadside parliament? How many of you coming to road? Yeah, Caswell, I'll be there as well. I'll be there as well. Westburn Plaza. Go ahead, Dave, and play it as the young people are gathering. I see Jonathan is there.
Time for people to get up and make a bubble line.
Time to wake
Now
up.
them come from country and town. Kick down Jericho wall.
Opposition fall in line.
Politicians run and ball. One by one, brick by brick, they crumble and fall. At the voice of the Almighty, and the trumpet call. Lies and corruption, and this administration. Lies and corruption, beer abomination. Lies and corruption, poverty and frustration. Lies and corruption, mashing up the nation. Lies and corruption, and this administration. Lies and corruption, beer abomination. Lies and corruption, poverty and frustration. Lies and corruption, mashing up the nation.
And I tell you, it is lies, lies, and corruption. Lies and corruption, as we see with the Springer situation. A lot to cover up. They're trying to cover up. Now they have to close the school, right? And let me bring in everybody that's here. Good night, good night, good night, good night.
Good night. Good night.
Hey, good night.
Hi. Good night, Jonathan.
Good
Good night, Don. Good night, Shakwani. Did I say that right, Shakwani?
It's
Hi.
Shakwani.
Hi, Shakwani. Nice to see you again.
It's nice to see you again, Mr. Franklin.
Listen, one of my joys is to to talk with young people, and the same with Caswell. And we're so thrilled to have you on here tonight, and just to hear what's on your mind, and to listen to what you're saying, and to affirm you as well that you're part of this opposition. It's we the people. It's not B, it's not D, it's not Q, it's not R. But listen, if you were born in this country, you are, or you're naturalized like me. I don't let me forget myself. We are all part of the opposition, and so you're on here tonight, and officially, I'm saying to the 374 of us that's on, we got some young people. It's not just us, over, we won't say what age, but but we got some young people in the house tonight. Welcome. First up, I want to get your feedback on what has happened to our young students at Springer Memorial School. Only a few years ago, you yourselves were students, right? Mm-hmm. And Jonathan, let me start with you first. You would have heard what happened at Springer Memorial School. What are your thoughts about that, and what are your recommendations?
Yes. So I'm going to school. We also had drills. We had fire drills. We had earthquake drills. We have these various drills. And the whole thing about the drill was, one, it was made known to the entire populace during praise. This is when all the students would be in the hall, and the principal will let us know, well, at some point during today or some point during this week, actually there will be a drill. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, when we after hearing this, we would then speak with our teachers, and then they would give us, the do's and the don'ts, what you expect, not to panic, where the areas we are supposed to go, what route we're supposed to take to get to the pasture, these various things. And for me, that just makes sense in terms of if you're going to do a drilling of any kind, to prepare the students before you seek to do anything. Earlier this week, I had a discussion with someone, and I was talking to them about this topic, and I was telling them, when you send your child to school, they just don't go to school and get tests. They're first educated and daily on the subject until they reach a certain stage, and then they get the test. So basically, the teacher is preparing them for that point to be able to have the knowledge to pass the test. And so my thoughts on it is that it was basically poorly executed. And I think how, again, it sometimes is not even about so much about the problem, is about how the problem is handled. Because for me, even let's say one of those same drills were happening, sometimes students may not be feeling well, they might panic, or somebody might have asthma, and then they will be secluded from the drill, or they will be taken somewhere separate to calm down and to resuscitate themselves. And all of these things are measures that you have to put in place in order to do these things and make sure that it's successful. Because the point of it ultimately is to educate us and to prepare us for a real life situation. So in my opinion, it was poorly executed. There was a lack of communication in terms of even teachers not knowing what was happening. And when something like this is occurring, the best thing to do in a situation like that would be to halt everything and to say, you know what, let's stop this drill right now and let's assess, because clearly it's not going the way we wanted it to go. Clearly, person seemed to be in distress, and maybe it should be rescheduled for another day. I think there were even times when they said we were going to have a drill and then it was postponed due to some whatever reason, you know. So I think that something like that should have been done in a situation like this.
Thank you, Jonathan, and very well said. And I needed to, because I know you, and I was so excited to hear from you, Jonathan. I did not introduce you properly, and to tell the people that you are an entrepreneur.
Yes,
Jonathan is an entrepreneur, married, a lovely, lovely wife. I love his wife. Also an entrepreneur, and they live in Barbadians, and love this country, and he's very excellent in what he does. I reach for him all the time for his photography services,
thank you.
and he's a gentleman and very professional. So, what's the name of your business, Jonathan?
So my name of my business is Chill Vibes.
Chill
And
Vibes.
yes, please. But for me, that is just a means to an end. My real passion is again young people, and I think young people have a lot to say, and I'm glad I commend you on having us on tonight and actually allowing the young people to speak on these issues, because they need to be involved in these issues if they're going to be the ones running the country in the next couple of years, you know. And so for me, what my real focus or where I really want to go is with my next organization called Positive Vibes, in which we try to use social media to help influence the youth in a positive way.
Mm,
Yeah.
excellent, excellent. I love it. I love it. And the next guests that we have here with us this evening is Mr. Don Leacock, and I'm leaving. I don't want to say I'm leaving the best to last. You know, I'm female, so I'm but but Mr. Don Leacock is here with us, and I had a wonderful conversation. I love them all. I love all of them. Don holds also a special place in my heart because Don is a CPA like myself. You know, he did his certificate of public accounting in Florida. I did mine in New York. Don is into the arts. You know, he has a very, very powerful social media presence where he uses, videos to send messages, etc. And he's an accountant, and interested in movies. We were chatting about movies and making movies tonight, and I'm just so bright and energetic. And Leacock, Mr. Leacock, it's so good to have you tonight.
Thank you. Really appreciate the introduction.
Wonderful. Now,
Yeah.
Mr. Leacock, I know unless you were under a rock, I'm sure you heard about what happened at Springer Memorial School.
Yes,
And
indeed.
you were a student at Harrison College.
Correct.
And can you imagine something like this happening at Harrison College?
No, not even in my wildest imaginations. I mean, Jonathan put it like just very politely, like it was a catastrophe. Like even if you think about the social and isolation anxiety that people have, even stemming from COVID, just trying to get back into the swing of going to school in general, for them to completely spring something like that on the girls, like unannounced, the parents didn't even know. Never in the world for a fire drill was there ever a real fire. So in this storm in the school drill, there shouldn't have been, people with actual cutlasses. There shouldn't have been so many men. It could have been literally one person. That's the only plausible scenario in my mind where I think I personally would have been okay with it, having a daughter at the school. If it was like one person, one single person that came into the school. But the fact that they had multiple men like off the block, these weren't like teachers, educators. These weren't, I'm trying to stay politically correct, but they weren't, they were block men. So it wasn't like these people were trained on how to, disperse the situation after they had started to wreak havoc and whatnot. And I think it is absolutely crazy. It's multiple times that the Ministry of Education has been at fault in the last 10 months. You could start with the questionable survey they gave to the children, and then they had the gender neutral bathroom signs earlier this year. So it's a lot about questionable actions, especially by the minister. I would definitely call out the minister specifically. And, I'm very confused as to why she hasn't resigned yet. In most other countries, she would have had to resign given her like awful run so far in the last year alone. So I mean, I'm really upset about it. I'm thank God I don't have any, loved ones that go to Springer, but if I did, I would be, consoling them and whatnot right now, trying to get them the mental health services that they need, and encouraging all the parents that feel that they need to sue the school, sue the Ministry of Education, sue Kay McConney herself, because everybody needs to be held accountable. And I just think that things like that can't go on in Barbados. We're being embarrassed on regional news. I've seen it on various regional news sources talking about it, Bahamas in particular, and calling for her to resign as well. This is like the third time for the year we've called for her to resign, as I said. So I mean, somebody needs to be held accountable for it.
Yeah. And thank you so much, Don. But my sons went to Harrison College as well, two of them, and I'm trying to. I'm wondering. Do you think, we don't know, but I just want to ask you. We understand how Barbados is set up and how we are separated, even through the school system, which we're going to get to that a little later in the program. Do you think that had something to do with the type of school that they chose? Do you think that they would have chosen Harrison College or probably St. Michael or Queen's College?
They definitely couldn't have picked a boys' school, because definitely there would have been some people in my year, I don't know, maybe even me myself, that would have tried to rise up and thought that we had the, testicular fortitude to take on these men. And then that would have caused, that would have been.
Hold a minute. At Harrison College, do you think the boys would have jumped up and beat them cutlass men?
There is a possibility. I can't say for sure, but there's a possibility. There's a much higher chance that students got involved like in a conflict with the armed robbers per se. Because if it was boys, some boy might have had a knife, might have even had a gun. You never know. These are realities at school, and they could have taken matters into their own hands. So I think, as ill-planned as this was, the ministry still had the common sense. Well, there's no common sense involved, but they still had the foresight to think, nah, let we not go into school. Let we guarantee that nobody will be able to fight back these offenders that we send in. And that's very cowardly. Like, it's crazy. There are no words that can really for me to politely say as to how upset I am with the ministry about that.
What I love about these young people tonight is just how clear they are, because I had no discussion with them about this particular thing beforehand. I was speaking to someone close to me, and about this, a young person, he's 27 years old, and he was very, very clear. He said to me, they need to go to jail. They don't, that's the thing with young people, right, Shaquani? That's what I love about young people. They're not going to try to be all politically correct. He was like, listen, they need to go to jail. I was shocked, just straight. I never heard nobody in all the discussions said that, that this is a criminal offense, So, but thank you so much, Don. We're gonna get back to you, but Shaquani, let me just welcome you. And Shaquani is into the arts as well. And Bajans are very, very talented people. They're very good with the academics, as is Jonathan and Don. But then they have, this artistic side to them. Jonathan is into photography, and Don is, into making these videos and theater and all of that. And Shaquani is all into makeup and the cosmetology, right? Am I correct in saying that? Yes, wonderful. Well, welcome, ma'am. Can you tell us a little bit? Do you have a business and name and tell us the name of your business?
Yes, I do have a business. I own a nail salon. The name is Infinity B Salon.
She owns a nail salon. Them not play. Them not play, you know. Shaquani,
Yeah.
you 30 yet?
No, I'm not 30. Why are you trying to age me?
Listen to me. Oh my God, Don told me how we started this, have to start this school today. Listen, these people, man, they're making us shame. Where were our age, their age, we weren't doing anything like that. Shaquani, you tell me about you own a nail salon? Name
Yes.
what the name again? Infinity what?
Infinity B Salon
Infinity B Salon. And where is it?
is located in Pelican Village.
In Pelican Village. Okay. Listen, y'all better go and support her here. Let me tell you. So listen, Shaquani.
Yes.
Shaquani,
Mhm.
where were you when you heard about the Springer Memorial students?
I think I was at work, But funny enough, before the official announcement was made, a message was sent to our group chat saying that they're passing down Springer, the hill by Government Hill, and they see parents running from both sides up the hill and down the hill going towards the school. So they said maybe something happened. Then we all went online and then we found out about this craziness where apparently they had persons in masks with guns and cutlasses going attacking students. That is what we heard. And then for us, we was like, I was so confused. And then the next part, we heard that it was a drill. I was like, but in my mind, you can't have a drill with person with actual weapons. That doesn't make sense. My next question was, what were these students and teachers prepared for this drill? Because if you're going to drill or test a person for something, you need to at least educate them about what to be prepared for. What is the signal? So if a person is going to be on the campus with a weapon, would it be code green? Will this amount of bells ring? How do these students know how to prepare themselves when they hear this alert on the school? My issue with the test also was that if you're saying you're testing persons to see how they react, why was emergency services already on the compound? Because if this was a real test, you have to start from the beginning, because in reality, if something like this happens, emergency services is going to be at where they start. So you have to time everybody, so everybody has to get the same starting point so it can be accurate. So they're saying they had a drill to see how people would react. The reality is that this information cannot be used because it was compromised from the beginning. Too many persons did not have the knowledge and the capability to understand what would happen and what they should do when it happened. We had too many pictures and voice notes with tables getting chopped up. Like, if this was a drill, were you actually destroying property? We have voice notes with persons screaming out, people kicking down doors. It was traumatizing. We're hearing that parents are saying online that they don't even know how to help their children, cope. They have children crying in their dreams, screaming. So in my opinion, I think they created more trauma that they were protecting. My biggest issue was this drill even called for? In the history of Barbados, I never heard that there was ever a mass shooting at a school, ever a person who threatened to go on a campus with guns to injure students at any point. I told a person if they were interested in doing a drill where they said that there were a lot of incidences recently where persons were coming onto the compound without getting approval and students were getting hurt, like we saw earlier this year at St. James. That is a drill I could understand, because you would do a person come onto the compound to get past security and you would say, well, we have a code green. This is to represent a person who's not
so hold a minute, just for those that's a very good point Shaquani is making. So at St. James earlier this year, that someone walked off the street. I don't know if Mr. Leacock or Jonathan is aware of it. Don or Jonathan is aware of it. Walked off the street and past the security, past all of those adults. The principal was at the school. The deputy was at the school and went and sexually molested a 12-year-old girl.
Yeah, I heard about that.
You heard about that, Jonathan? You heard about that? So
I heard
that's
about
what
that as well.
so make your point again, Shaquani, and I want those abroad who are listening to understand what Shaquani is saying. So make that point you were making.
So the point that I was making was that if they did a drill to stop something like that, to stop persons from just walking onto the campus. So this person walked onto the campus, they do not have on a badge, we do not know who they are. This is the code that we will send out. This is a code green. This is for people we do not know, we cannot identify. We want you to keep students in the classroom. We want you to lock the doors until we get the matter under control. That is an issue we actually had earlier this year that was not addressed. They say the heightened security, but still, a couple months later, you did a drill for mass shooting. We never have a person attempting to attack a school. So there was no call or relevance for this in Barbados, maybe overseas, but not in Barbados. And if you're going to do a drill on persons, you need to first identify that there's a purpose for this drill. There was a reason for this drill. We had no reason for this drill to begin with. So to me, it was a waste of a drill, waste of taxpayers' money, because all the ambulances that actually had to be called to that location, no, because persons were actually injured from being trampled, from running, from falling, from getting asthma attacks. We actually had to use public money, public resources to actually combat that issue. And then after that, then we now have to counsel students, because some of the organizations that I worked with, I reach out. For me, once children are not protecting, and there's an issue with children, that perks up my ears, and I reached out to every person I know. Even if I knew you a little bit, I called the social workers I knew, I called the counselors I knew. I asked them, what could we do? How could we assist? How do you think that these children will be able to overcome and cope with something like that? And one of the points that came up from that discussion was that we don't even have enough trauma counselors in Barbados to tackle the amount of students that were affected. So even though they call in persons to counsel students, those persons they do not have the background to handle that amount of people. And they don't have the background to counsel those students with that trauma.
You know, Shaquana, I will have to tell you that I must agree with you, because someone who's very close to the situation said to me on Monday that they were at the school and they saw hundreds of students sitting down idly. There were no teachers, and they sat there. And I know that someone called the school, a concerned parent called the school and spoke with the deputy, and the deputy said that they were the students were getting counseling. But what we were hearing is that the students were sitting there because they don't have enough counselors. So remember, there are 900 and something students that go to Springer Memorial School. So they were sitting, looking in space in the same classrooms, Don, that they were terrorized. They were sitting, looking at each other. And because there was nothing for them to do for that part of the day.
No, that's a good point. They should have had like a lot of mental health professionals like on site as soon as it happened, because they should have been able to easily anticipate that, this would have been a big issue with all of the students. So that was a very good point that you raised as well. The traumatized children were just left to bash.
It should have never happened.
Yeah, it should have never happened. I'm very adamant on that as well.
Need to lose their job. You're trying to tell me all the people that was on this planning committee to execute this, nobody thought that at one stage that this was a bad idea? Yeah, nobody could have said that. I don't think that we should go through with this. Maybe we should call this off and regroup, and maybe ask the public how they will feel about issues or drills like this, how they will feel about it. The government love town hall meetings. Have a town hall meeting discussion about this. There was no reason to have this drill. And you can see the ripple effect, because we're talking about counseling students. What about counseling teachers? What about the teachers that didn't know?
My whole thing on this is that I've personally done projects at my alma mater, which is Dayton Griffith. And before I could even begin anything, first I had to present a project proposal. I had to show what was being done at what time and all of these. I had to go through so much red tape. And this was nothing close to being traumatic. All this was getting captured.
You didn't have any cutlass and no guns in your proposal.
At first, I was just like, I come in to do something good, and they're making this really difficult. But after a while, I understood. I get it, because you're dealing with children. And I went through all the procedures. I dotted all my I's and crossed all my T's. My thing is, how something this severe is thought isn't. For me, it seems like no thought was put into it, and no planning of any kind. So how something like this just got through the cracks, just bypassed all of these steps and just happened, you know?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's my issue. I don't know how it even happened to begin with.
You know, Don, what do you think is do you think that there's another reason behind this whole thing? So we are seeing this drill. Shaquani just stated that based on her knowledge and living in Barbados and mine as well, I'm Jamaican born, and I could see why they would want to do something in Jamaica like that, but they better not do it and not tell them, because I'm telling you, Don, it's gonna be. Let me tell you, somebody gonna run out there crying. You understand?
Right.
And the principal and deputy, they would have to have them under armed guards right now. You get me? You know, but do you? It happened, Don, on International Day of the Girl Child.
Yeah.
I researched that, and that is
Mhm.
I can't honestly, that is going playing over in my head, and I'm trying to understand why did that it happen on that day? Is there another reason that we're not aware of, or we're not seeing right in front of us? The other important thing is that when I did some research, I found out that over the years, Springer has celebrated the International Day of the Girl Child, right? It
Mhm.
wasn't every year because we had the pandemic and so on, but that is something that over time they have celebrated quite, because it's the only female school, the girls' school in
Yeah.
Barbados.
Yeah,
So they,
correct.
yeah. So Don, I'm wondering, have you ever thought about that? Why did it happen on that day? Is there something else going on here?
Well, I mean, it's very sinister for them to do it. There's no right way for them to have done it at all, but to do it on that specific day, it just sends like a added, insult to injury on the girls. Um, there are a lot of other theories, for like political reasons they did it. That the IMF was in Barbados holding meetings, talking about the same sewage water. That I see is the title of this convo. I think you and Caswell were discussing that before. So Kimar Stewart had brought that up, that the IMF was in Barbados talking about that. So maybe it was just a ploy, a distraction, something big to have the public talking about something else while the IMF was here negotiating new loans. So it could be that, to answer your question. If it was something else, I just think it is extremely sinister to do it on the International Day of the Girl Child. Like everybody was aware of that. It's an entire Ministry of Education. Circling back to the original issue at hand too, the media tried to play it off like the principal took accountability for it, kinda, and was like, okay, yeah, we learned our lesson and everything. But I think she's just used as a pawn. I really don't think like she had the final say in this happening at
Mm-mm.
all. And it just really comes back down to the minister. Like she needs to be fired, definitely. A lot of her staff can go even. Um, but for it to specifically happen on that day just makes it even sicker than it already is.
Yeah, yeah. You were saying something, Jonathan?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a note of another issue that a lot of people may not have thought about was one of the times when I was at the school, I saw a student, and all the students were on the pass. So I think this was during PE or something. This one student in particular was sitting on by himself, and I thought for a second maybe he was picked on and he was by himself. So I just went to check on him to see if he was okay, and I spoke with him, and the boy hasn't responded to me up to now. And his classmates later came to me and told me that he has a condition where it's very difficult for him to even articulate or speak to himself, and all the teachers know about it, and we compensate for it. So we work with him. And for me, exercise like this took no account of persons like that may be
Mm,
having conditions that in that way, that they when you do not know how that could traumatize the person, that in that pretense, and also to something like this, a letter should have been given out, even for the parents to allow this to even happen in the first place. On everything that happens at the school, like so many any little thing you want to do at the school, the parent has to get a letter to approve of this being able to happen, and something like this, especially I think notice should have been given all around, even before even reaching students. The teachers should have been educated, because again, the teachers weren't even educated, or even they weren't even aware of it happening. So to me, again, it just seemed like no thought went into it at all, and it was basically done by toddlers, because the basic level of common sense, you would put certain things in place for something like this, you know.
Mhm.
So yeah.
You know, Shakwani, I want to ask you as well. What do you think was the purpose of this? If based on what you have just said, and we all agree, we
Mhm.
don't have that scenario in Barbados. Not that we should not plan, because I think the idea of doing drills, I actually think is a good idea. You know, but if we don't have these scenarios and we never had a drill for you know, someone just walking off the street, because we've had those situations here in Barbados, and we know, you know, we have a security guard there and they sleep half asleep, and it's, you know, some of them, as somebody said, they have two knock knees, they can't run, and you know, they have weak knees, all kinds of jokes about these security guards. And we've never had a drill about that, but we had a drill about this. What do you think? Do you think that there's another reason for this?
I honestly think it has to do with money because, in my opinion, if you don't have a problem and you create a problem, then you need to get a solution. And to get that solution, you may need funding, and to fit into that category for funding, you may have to pass certain requirements. So, suppose there's international funding for maybe mass shooting, preparing for mass shooting, or prepping schools, renovating schools, retrofitting schools. I don't know. It seems like a good option to run a drill like that because, other than that, there's no reason that would show that there was a need for this particular drill now or ever, because we do not have mass shootings in Barbados, especially at schools.
Mhm. We don't, I mean, as I said, the only country in the Caribbean I could see them trying to do that would be Jamaica. You know, my country. And from what my mom has been a teacher for over 40 something years, never heard of anything of this sort. Never in the history of Jamaica. So it makes us, and I brought it up because we don't know, we're all speculating, but it you know, it makes us want to wonder what could really be the issue here, with this. Now the school is closed, and I want to, you're young, right? And I want you to think about, what would you say to a student who goes to Springer Memorial School, because the school is now closed. There are people who have to take CXCs, and they have CAPE, you know, and plus we had the issues in the pandemic and so on. I want you to think, is the last point we're going to discuss, last comment I need to say on Springer. What would you say to um, a student at Springer, each of you? And we're going to start with Don.
Well, I mean, you would definitely just have to start asking them how the ordeal was for them, making sure that they weren't too traumatized personally by it. If you know that they had any pre-existing conditions like asthma or anything that they would have been more predisposed to being affected by it, all of those things would be to consider. But I mean, all you can do is reassure them that, it wasn't their fault. This was completely crazy. Nothing like this has happened probably in the whole region, or very little in the world. America has all these mass shootings, but they probably don't have drills for it, like even thing. And the biggest thing is that it doesn't appear that the students were ever educated. It's not to say that they went in a couple of weeks before and told the students, okay, you're all gonna have to hide under your desks when so and so happens. There was no education on it beforehand, and that's one of the most annoying parts as well. So I
Yeah.
mean, all there is to tell the students after the fact now is that you should sue them. You should definitely try to get some sort of compensation, and that would be the best way to go about it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And then if they were having mental health issues, to seek the professional help that they need. Try to be there for them as much as possible.
Yes, yes. Jonathan, what would you say to the student at Springer who now has, the school is now closed?
Mm.
But can you
Um,
imagine? They lost basically a week from school because nothing was happening since Monday over this. What do you
Yeah.
say to that student
Yeah.
at Springer?
Personally, I would like to encourage them because before you could even think about education, you have to be in the correct state of mind. You're not going to be in any headspace to do any exams if you're dealing with any trauma or you're dealing with anything like personally at home. So I would encourage them first of all to let them know that one they can overcome this to not allow them to know that they could this is not something they need to take with them for the rest of their lives. That it's
Mm,
possible to get past this, but to seek the relevant help and to be patient with themselves too as well. Because very often I find we as black people, when traumatic things happen, we just try to suppress it and just like continue like everything is okay, or we
true.
don't we don't want to allow ourselves to face
Hmm.
certain things, and that's how these things become bigger issues in their adulthood. So I would encourage them to have patience with themselves. I would encourage them to speak about it, talk about it with who they can. I know not every child has a good home environment or have persons in their lives they may be able to express themselves with, but I encourage them to seek professional help or to seek whoever they think, whether it be a church or wherever they can go to talk to somebody because I strongly believe that talking about things is a way of therapy, is a way of it allows us to get through or to get out certain things have been bothering us. And I think that there's a lot of healing that can come from that. After that, any person who's still in a good headspace to learn, still in a good headspace to want to do their exams and stuff like that, I would honestly try to seek to get to another school because clearly right now the state that the school is in is not in any state to be run. And if the persons that have were responsible for these incidents are still there or is still that management is still there, I would think it would be best for them to either seek a private education if possible, or maybe seek to try to get a transfer to another school.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my
That,
take.
thank you, Jonathan. I love what you said about us, how we are as Black people. Sometimes we pretend, we hop along,
Yeah,
Shakwani, we hop along as though everything is fine. And also, how we treat each other.
yeah,
We thought that somehow they thought that the students could just continue on Monday morning. Why did we think that? Why did we think that? It's how we see ourselves, eh? That it's the students could just continue. Classes need to continue. Oh my goodness. But over to you, Shakwani. What would you say to that? Somebody wrote here. I think it's Miss McLean. Can you imagine that first form student? Because one of our students, our dance students, was a student there and in first form. And in her particular case, Shakwani, she hadn't started to seeing her menstrual cycle, and as a result of the thing in one, her whole body just shut down, and that poor child, not that she would not have had, I mean, obviously that's where she's going, but the point is that all of this happened because of the trauma that was taking place in her body. What do you say to a young girl, Shakwani, at Springer, that was involved in this trauma at Springer? Is she there, Shakwani? I think she's stuck.
Yeah, she looks stuck.
yeah, frozen. Yeah.
Okay, Caswell, before we move on to the next topic, do you have anything, Shakwani? Let's see. Okay, she's out to come
She
back.
dropped out.
You would have heard these very bright young people, and they are just. I want to say, I love Barbados, right? I love Barbados, and I love reasoning with young people here. They're so so intelligent, and and I just love talking with them. And I just have a big smile on my face this evening because it's not just these. There are quite a number. Right now, Donnie shaking his head.
Yeah.
I work with some of them through at UE. They do the give back program, and I love to sit and talk to them about the country and their ideas. And when you listen to them, they could run this country. But can I hear from you, Mr. Franklin? You've been hearing anything you want to brief add, because I think she's back. Chakwani's back. Yeah,
Yeah,
go
let me
ahead.
hear her.
You want to hear her first, Chakwani? Let's see.
pros and stuff.
Experiencing some challenges. I want to hear her. Go ahead, Mr. Franklin, while she starts it out. Hi, Shakwani.
Yes.
Hi, Shakwani. Yeah, not hearing her. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Franklin. Oh, he dropped out too.
Oh no.
Tough night.
All
Yeah.
right, no problem. Well, we're gonna move on. And we're gonna move on, and I want to. Somebody said, Marcia and Caswell, invite them back, please. Yes, yes. And we need them to come back and to just host their own show. I don't mind giving them a whole night and just let them rip. I think I'm really thinking about that. I have been. They don't know that's in the back of my mind. They don't know that I draw them in, and we're just going to disappear and give them a night and just let them do their thing. And I want to hear from her. She's trying to get back in. Okay, let's try. I think I see her moving. Chakwani.
Right. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, a girl named Shakwani. She's
I
fine.
do not know what happened to the laptop, but it decided to stop working. So
And now we can see your beautiful face. So, Shakwani, I was asking, what do you say to a young girl at Springer, a young student?
okay. So what I would tell her is that it is okay to not be okay, because I find sometimes a lot of persons who counsel people want to rush through the whole progress and make it seem like they have to be okay right now. Like they want to play off like it's not something that was important. Like it's just a drill. But to them, it wasn't. To them, it felt real because they didn't know. So that means the trauma is real. So we can't just think that one day of counseling is going to eradicate these children's problems. Some of these may have lifelong difficulties dealing with this trauma that they had when they were at school. So in the next 10 years or 20 years, we may still be hearing students and persons who went Springer in that period talking about this issue, because that is how much it would have impacted those students. That is why I think it is so important that the Minister of Education stepped down, because in her mind it was just a drill. But in reality, that drill really impacted those students in a negative way. And some of them would be permanently scarred by that trauma. So we cannot take it lightly. And I think parents should sue everybody, because the reality is that until they recognize that this is serious, they're not going to take it serious.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much, Mr. Franklin. What's your final word on this section,
Well,
segment
I
before we close this one out?
I am happy. In 2 days, I'll be 65 years old. And people always ask me, Caswell, when you going off, you sing, who's going to be there? Look, they're there on the screen. You know, I am so proud of these young people. That they're funny. I can relax now. I know that this place is in good hands. I have but we got Kimar here, so we know his hands are good. But there are more. You see, I don't think that these are the only ones. So trust me, we can take these young people and replace those 30 people in the as a matter of fact, you don't even need 30 of them.
We
Correct.
come in right now.
Easily, very easily.
Yeah.
So I am so proud. I'm happy. I was here, well, grinning and saying true. I should have said that, that kind of thing. Because
Caswell, you said your birthday is going to be when?
on Friday.
On Friday, and mine is on Monday, actually.
Mine
Yeah, good.
said 2 weeks ago. You see, good people. Good.
That's it. That's it.
That is awesome. That is awesome. And I get it. As I said, I get to talk with a lot of the UWI students, and I often wonder, why don't they just have a session where we, when we're trying to deal with issues, just have them like a think tank with just young people and hear their views, and you can learn a lot, from them. But I want to switch the conversation. to just some of the topics of the day and want to hear. So let's just talk about NIS just a little bit. This is Caswell's, a big area, and we just spent a few minutes on it and just to hear your views on it. Let's welcome Kimar. And we hear Kimar. I know Kimar's view on it, and I know we know what he's coming here to talk about tonight. Yeah, he has some yeah, he has a cutlass somewhere down at his foot there. But I want to hear what your thoughts are. I mean, it'd be interesting to hear your views on it, Don. That we've moved from 65, it's 65 to 68 years, and it's going to affect you guys. All the changes, the contributions have moved from 500 to 700. Mr. Franklin knows it all everything that has happened, and he often would say, this doesn't affect me. It affects the young people, you guys. So I want to hear your thoughts about it. Are we making a big to do about it? Is it that you don't care? Don, you're muted, Don.
Sorry about that. Yeah, definitely young people care about it. We are the ones being affected by it. We're going to have to contribute more and for a longer period of time. The likelihood of the entire thing drying up and going bankrupt is far higher in our lifetime. Like, for example, I'm under 30. I wouldn't be eligible for another 35 years. They're doing things like enabling money to be moved overseas, invested overseas. That's a lot higher chances for people to be corrupt with it, siphon off some. So there could be even more stealing and bribery than goes on in it already. These are all just causes for concern. I think there needs to be an entire rehaul of it. Somebody really needs to take a good look at it, because I think, as they've said for quite some time, it could go bankrupt in the next couple of years. I think that's more a reality now so than ever before. A lot of the high unemployment levels in the young people is a good reason for that. Even the young people that are working are relatively entrepreneurial at this point in time, and that means they aren't necessarily putting in the same contributions as workers. So the amount of employees in the workforce is really down, and that is really going to have an effect on the NIS as a whole. So I worry about its health in general, but definitely if they're going to raise the age now, in 5 years they're going to raise it again. In 5 years they're going to raise it again. By the time I reach 65, the age might be 90, So it's definitely a slippery slope. You can't really give up anywhere. In France, when they had raised the age, they had protests in the streets. I commend y'all for protesting as much as you do. But France, they rioted, they burnt down buildings and whatnot. We haven't reached that level yet. And I'm not saying that's the best solution, but I'm just saying we definitely need to have more discussions about it, because if we, the people, don't talk about it, they have the entire parliament, so they'll just talk about whatever they want to talk about and keep making these unjust laws. So this is exactly why we're here in this forum, to keep noise about it right now.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Don. Jonathan, is this something that you think young people care about? I know you are. You're an entrepreneur, and do you feel like you want to contribute to the scheme? Just calling it a scheme sound, but do you want to contribute to it? Are you discouraged? How do you feel about what you're hearing? What are your thoughts?
So personally, I have no faith in the NAS system as it stands. I think the whole thing needs to be rehauled. I think the only reason that is still ongoing or it hasn't been declared bankrupt is that the idea of that this may be able to milk us for some more money before it finally collapses is there. And for me personally, my personal goals for my business is to get my business to a place where it becomes a legacy, and I could fall back on that what I've built over the years to support me in my retirement. Because I think if I put my faith in the government, that'll be severely let down. And yeah, there's a lot of other underlying issues in terms of corruption, in terms of just like I feel a lot young people understand a lot when it comes to like politics these days. They understand that there's a lot of corruption involved. There's a lot of underhanded things that happen behind closed doors, and as a result, they don't really have faith in these things. And the unfortunate thing is it's gotten to a point where they don't even see the need to speak about it, or the city need to be involved with it. But it's still very important for us to have these conversations and for us to talk about these things, because it gives us new ideas. It gives us our own personal solutions that we could create and we could have for ourselves, instead of just, well, I can just leave that for the old me to think about, or me in the next couple of years for me to think about, because these things need to be thought about now, because this is what's going to affect us in the long term. Not everyone is like us, or privileged like us here in terms of having their own business and being business savvy. There are a lot of young people that are still relying on their day jobs to get by and stuff. So what's going to happen to them if they don't think about these things and they get to that age? So as it stands, I think a new system needs to be created. And I think the whole idea of raising the age is ridiculous, because again, you have so many young people dying every year, like so many, whether it be shootings, whether it be accidents, whether all these things. Every time a person dies before they get to that age of receiving their money back, that's a free money. So I don't understand why is in the deficit when it should actually be in the surplus. So that's just my thoughts and feelings on it.
Interesting. Thank you, Jonathan. Shaquani, I want to know, we were taught very well by Mr. Franklin, and one of the things that we realize is that the politician, they are retiring at 50, or they can get their money at 50. It's 50, Mr. Franklin, am I correct?
Yes, 50.
50, while for us it's 65, and as Don says, that
No,
they
it's
plan
68 now.
68, and it's going to increase. Okay, what are your thoughts as a young person? You hear that, you're a business person, you hear that. What are your thoughts about that, Shaquani?
My first thoughts when you just told me that, again, I should run to be a politician, because if I could get my retirement money at 50, honestly, that is how a lot of persons are thinking. Because when they make statements like that, it really makes you think like they don't really care about us. Most persons at 45 are already tired. I am only 26 and I am tired. Up to the other day, I asked somebody, when can I retire? Imagine at 26, I am thinking about retiring, and there's no opportunity for me to do it at such a young age. The government is now telling me I need to work much longer to get this money that might be there when I'm finished working. Not that it will be there, it might be there, but there's no guarantees. I feel that governments need to be held accountable when they remove money from NAS. The reason I'm saying that is that you cannot take out money from NAS, from our money, tell us to pay a monthly, and then you can say, oh, we want to borrow this to do maybe build a fire station, and then potentially not build a fire station and just use the money for something else, or not tell us what happened to the money, but then the money is not returned, but we have to now work for longer periods because of that money you have removed. I feel that there are not enough people asking what has happened to the money. I don't care about what you're telling me that I need to work longer. I have already worked. I put in money. Furthermore, you owe me money, the government. Because that is how a lot of persons feel. We put in, we pay NAS. The tax returns are always late. They never could find anything. The system is horrible. And persons have too many issues with it. It is telling us that they need to relook the system that they currently have and see if it's working, because it isn't that you need me to work longer. You need to create a better system that monitors when money is being removed, who is held accountable if the money is not put back into the fund. Because you can't, every time money is not returned, you can't tell me the age limit for retirement needs to go up, because at this rate, as Jonathan said, we will be working to 90 and we will still not have any money. I feel like they use NAS as a playing ground for when they need extra money, just to go and take it out, and okay, we can do this because that money is there accessible to them. They're saying that not enough young people are in the workforce, but when you go in the workforce now, a lot of persons are not putting us on contract. So when you come on as a contract worker, they don't pay NAS for you. You now have to work out for yourself the NAS payment that has to submit. And they don't encourage persons to pay, because at the end of the day, $450 is not a lot of money to begin with. So if I now have to decide when to pay my NS money, and if I want to remove it, That doesn't make me inclined to go and pay that money. That makes me think that I'm going to keep the money. So if the government is saying that more persons need to pay money to NAS, why so much government jobs done is contract work and they're not asking their workers to pay NAS? Just like everybody else, they don't want the hassle of having to remove the money and then being responsible for it. So
Mm-hmm.
when they're saying that they want more people to pay and ask money, but they're giving you jobs where you're on contract. So that means that they're not even removing that and ask from your job, making it seem that you're getting more money. But the reality is that they're also contributing to the problem. We
Mm-hmm.
have too many people not being held accountable, and we need that to change. So
Indeed,
money
you're
is like most other young people do. We want to know where our money is going and why we should give you our money because it doesn't make sense to us. The math is not math.
not matching. You
That was
know, you know, Mr. Franklin, as we have the youth here, is there anything that you want to say to young people about this fund in a very concise? Because I'm watching the time and we want to touch on some other issues. I want to hear them. So, is there anything, Kimar? We're not coming to you yet, but is there anything that you want to say to them, Mr. Franklin, about this NIS and the pension
What I
issue?
would like to say is simply this: that the NIS is important. It is necessary because we have too many people who will not be able to provide for themselves in retirement. I see Jonathan is saying that he wants his business to become like a legacy so I can take care of him. But there are a lot of people who can't do that. There are a lot of people who got to aspire to that. They're not trained for it. They're not educated for it. So national insurance will have to be there. And they say it is your lifeline. It is a lifeline for a lot of people who do not have the kind of talents that these people have and it's going here. All right, so you need it. What happens, however, is government does not recognize that because Shaquandi was quite right when she's saying, "Oh, the government putting people on contract. Even if you put somebody on contract, you got to pay the national insurance, you know. But the government is cheating. When you have a government that cheats, it's on people. That government got to go, you know. You're running Shaquandi because if you're running for St. James, South, if voting for you.
I running, but not for St. James. I, you're very true. They're trying to fool people like, oh, I gave you jobs. You can come and work. Working for 6 months, then you go to work. Maybe even 3 months. They're putting you on contracts. That's what they're doing.
And
Wow.
they're stealing from you. And when the government can steal from a poor individual who they're paying $400 or $500 to, you know, these people need help. You know, they need the Lord. You cannot do that. But too many people see themselves as a D or B or rather than first a Barbadian first. And I think that's what you must be first, right? And you got to be one of those type of people who are willing to look out for each other. That's the important thing. Because
Yeah.
if you only look out for yourself, you're gonna fail.
Yeah. You know, I see the roadside parliament. Thank you, Mr. Franklin, is up here, and this is going to be on Sunday at 5 o'clock. And we're asking people to come out, and it's a time, where you can, as these young people are sharing their thoughts, their concern, they're making recommendations. A lot of recommendations are made tonight. They're not just saying, not just complaining. We want you to come out and to share your recommendations. We want your ideas. It's what the idea is that we are the opposition. We are the opposition in this country, and so come out to the roadside parliament on Sunday. Take that microphone and speak up. Speak into the microphone. And having these young people on, Mr. Franklin, one of these roadside parliament should be all youth.
I
you know
agree.
Nobody over 30, nobody over 30 holding that microphone. You understand? It's their thing, and we
I
can.
would be happy to deliver the water.
Yeah,
Like
we just serve. We need to plan it. The third one should all just be young people, because really and truly, it's really all about them. Now that's one issue. We're putting you all in the hot seat tonight, because we don't really see you all. So listen, Don, Someone is asking a question. One of the members of the opposition, that's how we call ourselves, and they're
Yeah.
asking, why is it if you feel so strongly about these issues like NIS and we talked about Springer. We're going to talk about employment and people leaving the country, the brain drain we're having, and get your thoughts. Why don't you guys come out to the march and be honest? Because we need to learn from you. So at the march, we find the one and two. Kimar is there and Jonathan there every now and again. But it's mainly people who are probably over 30 at the march. Why don't we find people like yourselves under 30 at the marches? Done. Honestly.
That was a great question. If you want the blunt, honest answer, I mean, the sun is be too hot. But I mean, other than that, I don't feel like young people really see the benefits of it. I think that the time commitment of the march, it's not that much. Let's say you go out for 2-3 hours on a Saturday,
Two
minus this,
hours.
right? So minus the sun being hot, like what is the benefit of it? Sure, you might get a newspaper highlight. If you did it on a Saturday, you might even be front page Sunday Sun or in the middle and get good publicity. But does that really equate to actionable change in society? And I think that's
Mm-hmm.
the biggest question that the young people are asking themselves. And probably they're answering that question with no. I'm gonna go out there and march. I might get ostracized for marching.
Mm-hmm.
I might, yes, and opportunities that I might have gotten otherwise if I'm seeing so openly criticizing such a one-sided government, it's not going to go well in my best interest. So these are just some of the things I think young people will be thinking about
Mm-hmm. It's done. We're
in a
losing
30
done.
love
Okay.
parliament. If
Mm-hmm.
you're speaking out against the government, it's easy to ostracize you. And other than that, I just think that the young people don't think that it's worth their while. We would need to kind of find a way for there to for the young people to start seeing change more so after these things. Obviously, marching and doing this kind of work is long term work, and you're not going
Mm-hmm.
to see things in a couple of weeks. You might not even see them in a couple of months. But that is the mindset shift that we need to get. Young people have a hard time grasping the concept of delayed gratification, since we're in an instantaneous world, stimulated by so many instantaneous, quick form things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's just tough. So I would say the biggest question we need to address for more young people to come out is like, what are they gonna get from it? What is society really gonna transform if we do get all these young people out there marching? The answer
Mm-hmm.
might be yes, but we
Mm-hmm.
just need to convince them.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Thank you so much for your honesty. I really appreciate that, Jonathan. Why the question? Why aren't you guys out there on a Saturday when the marches are called?
I think what Don said before me was very truthful and very relevant. Another reason I think they're not coming up to the marches is that a lot of them just looking for money. Like you always hear people saying that they're looking for money, they're looking to make money, and I don't even necessarily blame them because the way things are right now with our economy is crazy, and a lot of them I picture myself before I reach this level of maturity. I don't see myself telling my boss I want Saturday off so I could go to a march when I got other things I want to do on my off day. I got other things and I could be getting overtime at work. You never know. So I think there's a lot of different factors involved in why we aren't seeing the young people come out in that way. I think again, Don would have hit some of the key points in terms of they may not understand the relevance, and I think Barbadians also too. We have a tendency to do things kind of like last minute. So it's like it's only when things are about to affect us then that we really realize, oh shoot, like we should have been focusing on this or we should have been looking at this. And again, young people young, so that they're not they may not even be looking at life in that grand scale, like long term. Like they're just looking at probably the next fete or next party, wherever the case may be. So all of these are various factors that I believe is why they aren't turning out as they should. I
Mm-hmm.
think what should be we've spoken about more is in terms of the relevance to them, how it affects them specifically, so they can really understand, okay, yeah, like this isn't something that is high up in the sky, in the clouds that maybe it may happen. This is something that will happen if nothing is done about it, you know. And I think creating more ways to that people could participate, that even that they may not be coming out physically, but another way of them showing their support and solidarity. In terms of even in terms of the march that we did last, doing something with the students, or getting them involved in a way that they don't need to be there present physically, but they
I
can still
see.
show they're in support. Because I remember when we were walking, there were cars driving, there were people beeping, they were like agreeing that every time you were saying something that was relevant, they were beeping your horn. So we have so many people out there that do support, but they may not have the timing might be off for them, maybe not on their schedule. They have other things to do, responsibilities. But I know there's so many, not just young people, but Barbadians in general, that agree with a lot of the things that we say. Is just to come out to a march maybe not be their thing, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Understood. How about you, my dear Shakwani?
Well, for me personally, the marches are always on work days, and I work every day. So when you work for yourself, there's no really off days. You work when the clients are coming because you don't know which day you would not have clients. If I work for somebody, it would be different because then maybe I can say, okay, I work 5 days, this is the salary. But when you're working for yourself, you usually have to work when the income is coming. So when persons want to book you is when you will be at work. So usually Saturdays and Sundays are very busy for me. But what I will say is that we are wondering why young persons don't come out. But a lot of young persons don't follow the news. They're not following what is going on. They may not even know what the march is about. They may not even know about the march. So we need to target the parents. Parents follow news. They're following what is going on in Barbados. They're following everything. So if we want young persons to know about stuff, we need to target the parents because if a parent comes out to a march, they're going to come home and talk to their child about it. We want young persons to march about NES, but most young persons ain't thinking that they're retiring anytime soon because they still at school. For them, they can only think about the lunch money their mother is going to give them tomorrow. So in their mind, they don't think that they ever have to work as yet. So they're not really thinking that it is important to march for something that does not affect them as yet. So when we're saying that the march doesn't have a lot of young people is because for them the issue is not relevant because most of them are at school, they live with their parents support them, so they don't get NAS. They may not even know what NAS is. So we have to also take into consideration at secondary school, they don't teach you about NAS. I didn't know about NAS until I leave school. So I'm able to learn how to do a CV until I left foundation. So it's not that they may not want to participate, but they may generally not know. And how social media works is that whatever you like, the algorithm shows you. So if you do not follow anything to do with politics, anything to do about anything happening in Barbados, anything to do with NAS, anything to do with anything of importance, you will never even know what is happening because your timeline will only show you what you are usually interested in seeing. So we're saying you're asking persons where they don't come out, but they may not even know that it's happening because nothing on their timelines may even be showing them. Because sometimes I follow people and I don't see them their posts. So it
Very
is
good.
about
Yeah.
how you're targeting them because you may have to target them on the other platforms because Instagram and Facebook they basically arrange what you see based on what you like. So if you don't like a matter, you will never see about it.
That's a very good point that you're making. Very good point. I realize that. I realize that. Because someone is saying, what am I hearing from these young people is alarm. The news is everywhere. But we have to understand that you see it's called a news feed. It's what's in your feed, it's what they're feeding you, based on the algorithm. So I can definitely understand that. Kimar, are you there, Kimar? Don't go. Kimar, good night, sir.
Well,
Should I consider you as young? But Kimar,
uh,
Kimar, good
well,
night.
I saw Glenn Grano saying that we have 3 young people in here saying, say we have because tomorrow Mars March
Come
like
up,
that.
come up a
So
little closer to the microphone. You're sounding
yes,
muffled.
yes. I saw Glenn Branham saying to the audience that he has three articulate young people in here. Then he went on to say it's not three, but he have six, because he won't include Marcia, Caswell, and Timur. But as old as they may seem, as knowledgeable as they may seem, as much as wisdom, I don't see any gray hair or anything as yet. I am only 28 years old. So it's still very much fit the category, yo. And I want to keep that. Much as Caswell want to keep his, and Mark still want to keep hers.
Keep what?
So,
My gray hair? Don't even try it. I'm going to have to go see Shaquani.
Gray,
Listen,
uh,
we're
gray
not keeping
hair?
no gray
You see
hair.
something?
But Kimar, let me ask you
You see
something. I
something?
mean, Don was very open, everybody, and I want to know. Before we even go on to the next topic, let's kind of close out this section here. Do you think that we need to teach or to educate young people more about the importance of marches? Do you think, because when
yeah,
you
right.
go back and look back in history, we have to be thankful for those who marched and protested, because here we are. But do you think, Kimar, we need to do more of that?
Well, just to educate them on marching, I don't think it will work. Which is
Mm,
that's the thing about march here, march there. This was good. I don't think in a silo it will work. But speak from an individual perspective, I marched because I had the knowledge, because I was involved in the political process. So I
mm,
understood why I marched, not for myself, but I marched for a lot of the other people out there who don't have representation, and I get information from them so I could stand in the way for them. But if you have young people, and that's the power a little bit of what Shakwani said, you people don't even be interested. They never even paid NAS. They probably never even had a job, right? So it don't affect you, it don't affect you really. You might got a little one or two issue at school, but when it comes to the overall political process, the young people don't have a direct stake. You don't run the seats either in the Senate or the House. You're not on any boards. You ain't involved in the process at all. So you don't see how really why you should participate in there as a young person at all. Um, I'm in a party, and I could tell you from experience, sometimes being in that party as a young person, you smell hell just to even get your opinion considered. I mean, you could have the brightest, smartest idea. It's the most obvious thing in the room to do. But because it comes from you and you young, man, sit down, you already know, and then you too young. And we got to talk all around. I mean, we got to go Barbados, St. Vincent, St. Lucia, Jamaica, everywhere we got to go before we accept the point that a young person just made. And we just can't accept it because they're too young to tell me anything. As an elderly or senior person who have tried, who have failed, who have put yourself in a position where you can't even help
mm-hmm.
to maneuver yourself in this day and age. But man, then young people just involved in drugs, or then young people just hardiers, or then young people just whatless, or then young people. It's always a stigmatization when you as a young person try to learn your talent, skills, time, your earning potential, because volunteer hours, you giving up earning potential to volunteer for free, and you ain't even respected for giving up your time to organizations or anything. So even being in organizations, you still don't even feel included. And I not knocking people who 60 and 70, 80. I talking about not even people who are in their 40s, who you consider young and who want to be leaders. Then even got no respect for people who are in the 30s and 20s who looking to contribute in different spheres. I talking about directly representational politics. I talking about in industrial spheres in general. Somebody will tell you an idea and want to piggyback off it and run on it, but disregard you as the young person and try to implement it without you. That's what we experience. So we have to give the young direct stake in this thing. We have to give the young a parliamentary seat. We have to give the young a board seat. We have to give the young a Senate seat. We have to give the young their seat at the table that is reserved for them. It can't be that you only want in there as a token. And I can reference the situation with Khalil Kofdiwala, who me and Motley wanted to make a senator in Barbados. Now he was not at the age of 21 as yet. They wanted to give him a Senate seat as a young person because in their opinions, and I underscore their opinions, in their opinions and in their world, he represents young people issues. Even though he really don't do nothing to represent young people issues. But still, they're willing to give him an opportunity to go up in the Senate of Barbados, the second highest level decision-making body, to give him an opportunity to represent the voices of the young. Now, as somebody that's 18 years old that ain't even finished school as yet, compared to somebody that is 28 like me, or probably 26 like Shaquani, or young like Dawn or Jonathan, we can have different needs and wants. His thing is about CXCs and capes. I passed that along, but still very young to be in the space of a community college, university, try to open a business, try to get work, try to get a job. Nothing ain't working. Right? So we need to address the root causes of this thing, which is you can't ask young people to come into a space to support your seniority. That's not why the young want to be here. We want to be here to represent our issues, what we bring to the table. So, and to give you a good comparison, you said it earlier in your presentation. The pension age is going up to 68, but I'm sure the persons on this live, the young persons and the young person generally feel like it really impacting them because we're near 68. We got like 40 something more years almost before we get to 68. So, but it don't bug me, no. But for persons who have the vision of longevity, you could know how it can impact you in the future. But that's not how the average young person is set up nowadays. And to repeat Don's statement, is about instant gratification. What you can get, no. If it could feel good, no. When they gave me that NAS payout, no, right now that I need it as a young person, because I don't even know if I can live to 68, because I'm liable to be shot somewhere along the road. I mean, I'm liable to die from poison in the sewage water. There's so much things that could kill you nowadays as a young person. So thinking about, when they get to 68, I'm not a bad person for not registering in my mind, but for the amount of issues that I got as a young, even getting a bank account in this country, the amount of issues that I got as a young person here, I can't think about what happening 40 years from now.
Too many issues right now.
Yeah.
Too many issues. Well, Kimar, that's some of them we want to talk about tonight. And I think we might only be able to touch on two, which means that everybody's calling for them to come back, for you all to come back another night, right? But we're going to get to the water thing, because that's going to affect all of us if we live to see that long, right? But we want to let's talk about the brain drain. Maxine McLean and we've been talking about this, and I know we were discussing about her coming on in the last half hour. I think we're going to have to hold that for another time, because we are out of time, really. I want to talk to you about young people who are leaving this country in droves. I don't know if you're aware of it, but I teach young people. I'm around them, and I know they are finding work or leaving to find work, or some of them they can't find any work, but they're going to go and they say they're going to go and study with the hope of finding work over there. But you guys are here. You're here in Barbados. I want to hear your thoughts about that. Why are so many young persons your age? Why are they leaving Barbados? So let's start with Don. Be honest, brutally honest, Don.
Well, I mean, I did it myself, to be honest. I only moved back last year, but the opportunities abroad are so much better. I graduated Harrison College in 2014, and in
Mhm,
2014 you had to pay to go to UE. I got academic scholarship to go away. The tuition was actually cheaper than going to UE at the time, so it was really a no-brainer, to be honest.
mhm,
Um, by the time I graduated school over there, obviously it was in America. You could earn US dollars. It's going to be much more lucrative and attractive to stay. And most young people are just in a position that, like, why would you come back if you have the opportunity to leave and go abroad? There's not a chance that most people come back. I mean, and it's not really, I wouldn't even really, I guess some people would consider it selfish, but it's just doing what's best for you. Some people could argue that going abroad and getting that experience and then coming back at, let's say, something like 35,
mhm,
and then reintegrate in that society, then you'll be able to add a lot more value to Bajan society then.
mhm,
But to answer your question specifically, other than the obvious financial incentives to go away, there's really just no opportunity here in Barbados for anything. Like in most professions, they're going to be like a top five, and other than that, nobody else is really going to be that successful.
mhm,
It's a very small island. We only have 300,000 people. How can it's going to be very hard to become a millionaire, for example, in a country where you're only selling to 300,000 people. It's a lot
mhm,
easier to sell, to millions of people. We're
mhm,
we're one of the smallest towns in America, you know what I mean? And you don't even have to just use America. You could use any European country, Britain, or even St. Catherine. St. Catherine in Jamaica is bigger than Barbados, you know what I mean?
mhm,
So
mhm,
even to go over there and try whatever your hustle is throughout the world, just being able to do it on a bigger scale is going to be a lot more attractive. So I mean,
mhm,
I would say young people are just running towards opportunity. Barbados really doesn't have the opportunity for them. Youth unemployment continues to rise, regardless of COVID or not, and it's just that the opportunities aren't here.
mhm, mhm. Interesting. Thank you, Don. Don, why did you come back?
Me personally, it was just a little bit of like I wanted to come back subconsciously. I felt like I was at a time in my life where, and then my family as well. My grandma turned 100 last year, so I did want to come and be closer to them for that, and little bit of that. And I was away for 8 9 years, so I just felt like it was the right time for me to come back to Barbados and see what I could contribute to society right now. I'm entrepreneurial as well, just like everybody else on the call is, and I feel like wherever there is a will, there's a way. Obviously it's going to be harder to make it here than in America or some of the other countries that I've lived, but I had my roots here, and we really need it the most right now. We need the young people coming back. It is the smartest of the young people that do tend to leave. The very brilliant best of our society are the ones that get to go away and get to study, and those are the ones that we need the most. So not saying that I'm one of the brilliant best, but I would just like other people that were in similar positions to me, that were overseas. They've got to spend some time over there, earn some foreign exchange. Barbados is in a position that we really need young people to come back, so I would encourage everybody to come back if they're so
Mhm.
minded.
Wow, so patriotic. Jonathan, Don talked about opportunities, that there are not enough opportunities for young people.
Mhm.
Would you be able to give us some insight, your thoughts on what are those what is it you need, what you want?
So I think um, Barbados' current culture does not reward competence. It rewards more so legacy and friends. And as a result, is uninspiring. If I know I'm competent, I could do something 5 times better than any person at this place. Why not go over to America and get paid for my competence? And is we like to sit down, have meetings and talk about things at length, and then at the end of the day, nothing is done, and it breeds frustration and it breeds dissatisfaction. And when I hear my friends making those decisions to go overseas and leave, like I can't really even be upset with them, because like if you could do better for yourself, if you gotta eat at the end of the day, for me personally, like why I prefer to stay in Barbados is because one thing I still think that we have overall is good people and a good culture in terms of how we are as a people and our values and what we stand for. Looking at America and seeing the direction things are going over there, looking at England and seeing the direction things are going over there, I much rather prefer to be here than to be there. And I know a lot of people feel the same, but at the end of the day, like some people may make the decision, I'll just go over there for a couple of years as the brother before me said and come back. And also too, I think Barbados needs young people that could help be positive role models for the younger ones, and not just the older generations like Caswell Franklin that was there doing as in the field doing the work right now. They also need to see other young people that are around their age, validating those guys and showing them or educating them, because they may be more open to hear us talk about you guys than maybe to go and listen to a seminar from you guys, So I think it is very needed. I think especially too because they always hear when America sneezes, Barbados catches a cold or something like to that effect. And if we see the direction things are going over there, I don't think we want that happening down here. And we need to voice our opinion before it gets to that point or before it gets to that pivotal moment. And I think we are in a unique position to change our trajectory in those areas. So yeah, I think it all boils down to competence and we all know like people who get positions as friends, the people or somebody that knows somebody. If you know somebody, like even going to the bank and you know somebody, you can get through fast. If you don't know nobody, you gotta wait so long in the bank to get anywhere to do anything. Sometimes answer them a simple question is be like you bothering them, and it's like, but you dealing with my money, you handling my money, like I'm not here coming to beg for anything. I coming to deal with my business. So yeah, it's very much that here, and that deters a lot of young people, and I ultimately can't blame them, but there's still a need for us to stay and try to do better and try to change that, because eventually those people with that thinking is going to pass on and then it's going to be left to us, and we have to know our stuff in order to continue, so
Yeah. Thank you, Jonathan. Shakwani, what do you think is impact of this mass migration, people leaving? We all know them, and for me as a Jamaican, I remember Jamaica at that stage. We now actually have a lot of young people like Dan who are coming back, or young people in Jamaica who say, no, why am I living here? We actually have that happening now. But what impact do you think that has on us here as a whole, as a nation?
Okay, well, for me, a lot of my friends don't live in Barbados and they didn't study in Barbados because one, Barbados is extremely expensive. When we were looking for colleges and looking to further our studies, the overseas colleges were giving us better deals. So to one of the colleges that I was applying for, you could, as a Caribbean student, you can apply for the college, go there free, including living expensive, studying, and that was 4 years. So if you're getting opportunities like that, and then some of the programs you had internships, you had opportunities to work on campus where you were getting paid $20 an hour, you cannot compare that to here, because the reality is that in Barbados it is harder. There's no places that young people can get jobs where people actually pay us good money. I remember one of my first jobs, I was paid $300 a week after NAS 270. That was when bus fare was $2. That was no money then, and it is even less money now. most young people, when we go to look for jobs, they always ask us about doing an internship, meaning that they don't want to pay us the full payment, but they want us to do more work, just as much work as a regular employee. They're also asking us for 3 to 5 years of experience. Like, we can just born and automatically have experience in this field. Unless we are given an opportunity, there's no experience for us to gain. Again, with the issue with why and when they raise the age of retirement, if the age of retirement has raised, what would happen to the workforce is that older persons will stay in longer, giving younger people less opportunities to get jobs. A person never retires, that means there's no jobs for me. So even if I want a job, I can't apply for a job because it doesn't even exist as yet. When I go to apply for jobs, they're asking for 3 years experience. They're also asking me for things that I don't have access to. I don't have, when I went to get a bank account, when I was 16, I couldn't get a bank account because I only had one form of identification. I didn't have my license as yet, and I didn't have a passport. So that was the issue. So I couldn't open a bank account. So apparently young people don't have money. We don't need to save money. When I wanted to go in to get a loan for my business, I needed to produce as a young entrepreneur 2 years of financial records, which I didn't even know I was supposed to be keeping at that time because nobody ever told me, because we were not taught at school that owning your own business is a pathway. So these are things we had to learn along the way. So when you ask why young persons are not staying here, I could go overseas and study and become an influencer and be paid just to post or be paid just to put on lipstick. So the reality is that it is much easier to succeed overseas than here in Barbados. We have persons constantly pulling us down at every single turn. It doesn't matter what you're trying to achieve in Barbados, it is very difficult if you're young. People always assume that you're not competent, they always assume that we're lazy, and they always assume that we don't want to work. But it's not that we don't want to work, we just don't want to work for free. It doesn't matter. I volunteer a lot. But at some point I have to pay water, I have to pay rent, I have to pay electricity, I have to put money in the car for gas. And all of those things are expensive. So you can't ask me to volunteer for, I remember when I did my first internship, I worked for a week and I only got $50 for that whole entire week. And I work, some days I work from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. So if persons are thinking that young persons should only be paid the minimum, why should they even work for somebody or want to stay in Barbados for these opportunities? Because in reality, that is nothing. If I have family at home to help, or a mother to help, or a younger sibling, I can't help them on that paycheck. So even though I want to contribute to Barbados and I want to see Barbados better, I need to make myself better first.
Yeah. Wow. This is something else, Mr. Franklin.
Very well said.
Very well said. I tell you. And I
I'll
see
tell you.
you have a short comment on it. Go ahead, and
Yes,
then I
will
to
tell
Kimar.
you that even when there are opportunities out there for young people, all the folks seem to be jealous of them and force them out. I can give you an example. Young doctors in public service in Barbados. We need doctors. But doctors are fairly well paid. They come close to the top of the scales in the public service. But the people who do their contracts are people like executive officers and senior executive officer kind of thing, who make far less than what a doctor makes. As a matter of fact, some of these people go through the system very slowly, and they take 20, 30 years to get to where the doctors are now. And they're jealous. Because how dare these people come in here and go and study medicine and come back and make more money than me? That is the attitude. And they put every stumbling block in their way. I curse all the time about it. I go to the Ministry of Health and make noise about it all the time. Simply because I think one of the worst place to work in Barbados, except for Sandlin and Miss Ram, is the Ministry of Health. And Jonathan, you know what he's talking about. You see these people that come, like doctors in Barbados right now, young doctors. You go and you study. You spend all your time at school, then you go into medical university, then you go to medical school, and you do a lot of studying. When you come out, rather than reward these people, they find ways not to pay them. Right now, you have doctors working, and they call them what they call them locums. We don't have a locum in Barbados. Our system does not account for them, but they create these jobs called them locums. A locum is really a doctor who comes in and work for a doctor who is sick or maybe on vacation, that kind of thing. But you have locums working for 5 years. They don't get vacation. They don't get sick leave, anything. And the Ministry of Health think that this is okay for young people. So if you can then leave here and go to some other country, even in the Caribbean, and work as a doctor and make money, you think you can stay? Our Barbadian administrators are jealous of young people, especially young bright people, because young bright people are earning. And they're saying, well, you mean the you want to come up with this kind of money, and I didn't even get there yet after 30 years? And that is the problem. You have a lot of kind of foolish jealousies. I love young people, see? That's why I stay young so long. And I, but trust me, that is I'm the odd man out in a lot of instances. They try their best to keep young people down. And when you're being pushed down all the time, they get vexed, they go on with their business, and you can't blame them. We need them, but we have jealous people who try to keep them out. And the Ministry of Health is doing nothing about it to retain our doctors and or even our nurses. You can start as a nurse in New York for $100,000 US a year, right? That is more what the Prime Minister makes in Barbados. So what do you think a nurse in Barbados who is well qualified, and the thing is, if you have Barbados on your CV as a nurse, because Barbadian nurses are so well trained, man, they gravel up all over the United States and England, Canada. But you treat them badly, so they go.
They go, and that is part of why they're leaving, and why we have to be importing nurses. But Kimar, just to close up, we can only touch these topics. It's so deep to go into it. But Kimar, how is this affecting the economy of Barbados?
Yeah,
Come close to the microphone. Yes.
Yeah, well, they often criticize this as not offering solutions, right? But here's a solution we could adopt it instead of raising the pension age to 68. In St. Kitts, what they did was to retire most persons over a specific age. They gave those persons a early retirement, paid them out what they were worth. Just paid them right out and allowed them to go home. And what they did was to hire young people into the public service. So those persons who had 5 years left in the public service, the government paid you out and gave that job to somebody who had 30 more years of contributions. And that helped to turn around some of their economic situation. Right? That's from government. So the government of Barbados could have did that here. Instead of sending home the 3,000, how much ever people they sent home when they first came in after promising that they weren't going to send you home anyway, they could have given youth, increased youth employment into the public sector so that you had those 20-something-year-olds, 30-something-year-olds with degrees, masters, PhDs, bachelors, whatever, bring them into the public service and give them the adequate time serving in there that they could have put in and be contributing and help to fund the retirement of some of our senior persons who did the time and they want to go home. So we give you the option of early retirement. And we ain't forcing nobody to go home. We ain't saying, well, cause you this age, or cause you still got bills, you still got mortgages, you still got family, you still got all of these things. So you ain't just kicking out people roughshod, but you're targeting them on an individual basis, means testing to decide who can take the early retirement or not. And you could have funded that. You could even funded it from the IMF program, because the Lyle Worrell, the same person who represented the external creditors against the government of Barbados in the debt restructuring, he recommended that to tackle the issues in the public service and to tackle public service pensions. But the government ignored all of that good advice to go to the IMF. Right? So That's just public sector. In the private sector, no. You have young people looking for jobs at all levels, from the PhD to the master's to the bachelor's to the associate degree to the CAPE subjects to the CXC subjects to the persons with no subjects whatsoever, all looking for work. But it seems even though you got a master's or a PhD, you still got to compete for entry level job with somebody that ain't got no CXCs, period. Right? The pay is the same, everything is the same, the bad treatment is the same classes, wannabe managers are the same. Everything is the same. And you gotta come and work an entry level job for 10 years before you even get on staff. And then when you get on staff, then you gotta wait another 20 to get promoted, starting at entry level. So most young people will get frustrated by that. I did banking and finance at Caswell. Many of the other students who did accounting and finance and management and all these type of subjects, when they finished Caswell, you had 4 accounting firms to apply at: PricewaterhouseCoopers, Deloitte, Ernst & Young, KPMG. Outside of them, you have no options. Or you apply to Republic Bank, First Caribbean, First Citizen, or the insurance firms. Outside of that, you have no options. There ain't nowhere to go really. If you get a job in these places, you working for an entry level job. They won't pay. They ain't giving you a salary. They pay you on commission. So if you was the insurance agent, you gotta go and sell insurance policies to get paid, because the company ain't paying you a salary.
Wow.
Right? So you're slowing down young people. Young people want to be homeowners like everybody else, right? They want to drive cars like everybody else. They want to pay bills, light, water, internet, everything like everybody else. They want to go to eat at restaurants like everybody else. Right? So they want to be, they want to be adults. They want to participate in the adult life, finance themselves, get out to the parents' house, and become men and women, have offspring, have children, do all these things. But the policies of the government and leadership governments across Caribbean, across the world, you're delaying that process. So you become a man in the Caribbean when you hit about 45, 50 years old, because it seems that's the only age you could even afford anything at in Barbados, when you hit 45, 50.
the others are laughing. Listen, we're gonna have to come back. We literally have about 15 minutes left, and we I wanted to talk a little bit about education, reform and so on. But I can't. The people going to stone me down if I don't talk, if we don't talk about this water situation. Last week, Kimar came on the program. He actually called me. I think it was last week Friday. Kimar called me, and he said that did you watch this clip, or do you realize that Ryan Strawn is at a meeting with the IMF and is
I saw that
saying,
clip. Yeah.
you saw that, right? And he
Yeah.
was proposing about the the tertiary treatment of the sewage water. I said to Kimar, I said, well, Kimar, it might be for watering plants and doing stuff around the house. It can't be for drinking. But then he told me, listen carefully again, and he talks about the aquifers, and that water is what goes into our taps. I then started to research everything and so on, and we had a show. Kimar spoke about it on the show, and really he was asking for them to explain what it is that they're doing, only to find out that there was an article in 2020, 2 articles that are quite alarming, that the then minister, who was over water was part of his portfolio. He said that in Parliament in 2020. I don't know if you saw that article. I think I should have it
Yeah,
together
the
now.
from Wilfred Abrams.
Hmm.
Yes, Wilfred Abrams. That
Yeah,
you know,
he
I,
was saying he was surprised people were discussing it because we were already drinking sewage water and we didn't really know.
and we didn't really know. And so, and then there was another article, and we're going to put them up as we discuss. They're right. I'm going to find them and put them up. Um, you know, he was saying that. I lost my train of thought, but one was that we were always drinking it, and that in Miami when we travel, when he says, "But where are we
Yeah.
making fuss?" He said, "When you all travel to Miami, you drink the water." I
Hmm.
know for sure. I lived in America for almost 11 years, and I never drinking tap water was something you don't do
Yeah,
in
I lived in
America.
America for 6 years, very close to Miami, and I never drank the tap water once.
It is just my son is in California. I called him today. I said, "Do you guys?" He said, "No, you don't drink
No,
the
like
water."
it's all
It's
shit.
like you don't drink the water. So I want you are young. You're the young people. We only have a few more years left on the earth, right?
Correct.
When you hear about this, because we probably are going off over nothing, all right? You might not care about it. When you hear Mr. Abrams speak like that, and you heard the clip from Mr. Strawn, I want to hear your thoughts. What? Give me some feedback on that as a young person. Don, starting with you.
I'm
Martha, before you go to Dawn, right? If you don't mind, I wanted to give some more context to this.
yeah, go
Literally, I
ahead.
mean, forgive
Thank
me for
you.
using my but I want to get some context to literally the shit that Wilford Abrams is speaking,
Mm.
for lack of a better word. He is a dangerous fella.
He's
Uh,
speaking and want us to drink it.
yes, he was also the spokesperson for this sewage plant when he was in opposition,
Hmm.
right? And in 2018, April to be exact, that's when the last government was in at that time. The government signed a deal with the European Investment Bank for $16 million to upgrade, and the exact deal was called a water rehabilitation project
Mm-hmm.
to repair the drinking water of Barbadians. It mainly focused on desal plants. It mainly focused on replenishing the pipes, repairing the pipes. And there was a small element in that deal with the European Investment Bank which spoke to treating wastewater facilities. It said that the wastewater facilities in Barbados were deteriorated to a point that they were non-functional, which means that this sewage thing was not happening before 2018. I got the facts to back it up. But in that document alone, it was not happening. I only want you put this article for people to see.
Yeah,
Wilfred
I'm trying
Abrams,
to get it up. Yeah.
right? Wilfred Abrams came out in November of 2019 and denied to the whole population that there was no E. coli in the water because some person sent wrong a text message saying that the government of Barbados did tests on the water and that there were the E. coli bacteria found in the drinking water in the north in Barbados. And he came out and denied that that was ever happening, that there was no E. coli and that could never happen. The only way E. coli could get in the water is if he was pumping sewage in it. At no point in time before that were there any reports whatsoever across Barbados that there was any E. coli in the water. He then came back in 2020 and told the people, well, no, you're always drinking sewage water from toilets. Well, for Abrams, this is the guy with the dry taps. This is the guy with the GIS at the prison. Man, I don't know, but this entire thing started with him as water resource minister. This thing is even so bad that the article that he told Barbadians that they were drinking that toilet water, I searched the entire Barbados Today archives and I can't find the article featured nowhere in the newspaper. So they took it out in newspaper even. So that persons cannot see. Because he said on the floor of Parliament, by the way, that we were drinking the water. Again, literally, what shit is that coming from Wilfred Abrams?
And the thing is, it was so matter of fact, and here it is the article of him saying no E. coli in the water. This was in 2019, which we are seeing done. We don't know because we don't have all the information, but one could infer if you started to do that, then there's a possibility E. coli could be in the drinking water. But anyway, Don, what are your general thoughts? Thank you so much, Kimar. Don, what are your general thoughts about this? We have to pick this up another time. You're muted, Don.
Yeah, I said thanks for adding the context, Kumar. I'm just very concerned about it. I think there are a lot of different ways that the powers that be, more so in America and these other more established countries, try to slow poison people. That I that I guess we're catching on to. I understand that this sewage treatment is done to water throughout the world. I personally don't see there's no way you can sell me drinking sewage water to be a okay solution. I know in Barbados we desalinate water. A desalination plant couldn't have been more expensive than whatever. A new desalination plant couldn't have been more expensive than whatever we're spending to clean the sewage water. And
Yeah,
I just
he purposely, not to interrupt you, Don, but if you look in the articles again, he purposely tossed the desal plants and said that the government is refusing to honor any contracts they have to build the desal plants. So the auction was on the table, and he purposely destroyed the auction of desal to decide that he can go for the sewage instead.
right. And then it has to just be money at the end of the day, because correct me if I'm wrong, but they're doing the debt for equity swap with this same project, right? This is the $300 million project that they're doing the debt for equity swap.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean that means that what is the IMF that they're doing it with? The IMF is gonna have shares in this new plant. So it just basically had to be whatever they wanted, to be honest. The best scenario for Bajans could have been a desalination plant. But if it was the case that the IMF said that they wanted to upgrade our sewage facilities, well, we didn't really have too much of a choice because, well, there's nobody in Parliament to say otherwise. And if the money was coming in and the kickback is there for them to get immediately, they're going to take it. So at the end of the day, I'm sure it just had to boil down to the money aspect of it, because I refuse to believe, any of these other politicians think that it's okay for Bajans to be really drinking sewage water. I don't care how much you treat it. I don't care how many different filters and high-tech science. There's no amount of PhDs or anything that could be working on the water to really make it drinkable. I mean, that's just my humble opinion. I'm sure a lot of young people in Barbados share the same sentiment. We're going to have to drinking this sewage water for the next 50, 60 years. There's no way that is overall positively good for us. So it's a very big concern if that is the mandatory way that they plan to take the country down.
You wouldn't live 50 years, you'd be slow poisoned by then.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I started
Yeah.
with, the slow poisoning. Yeah.
Slow poisoning. Jonathan, we just have a few minutes. We are aware that this is done, in various countries. The challenge, I think, for a lot of people is that come on, man, nobody ever even discussed it with us. We were just told that. I think people want to know so that whether they're going to, some people might want to have started to filter the water, if they knew about it. We know it happens in many countries. I see Adrian is saying that it's done in his neck of the woods, that it's controlled in law and so on. We understand that, but the thing though is that I think that we should have been told that, Jonathan, so that we can make the necessary choices. What are your thoughts?
Well, I remember being young, and for me, the concept of purchasing bottling water was a foreign concept. I was like, why would somebody even buy water? Because our water, water for me used to taste good. Like our water I was accustomed to our water, and I think that was something even we as Barbadians used to talk about. We have one of the cleanest waters in the world. We could drink our pit water, whereas you can't do that in other countries. So I think it is something that was a lot of importance to Barbadians, and to just change that decision without even consulting us or informing us was insulting in a way. Um, Me personally, there's no amount of purification that could be done to the sewage water that would make me feel comfortable with drinking it at all. All I see this is they're creating a new market because Barbadians are very scornful. We don't mix matters. We're very scornful when it comes to certain things, and this is something that I see causing Barbadians now to buy bottled water much more now than they ever would before. And I came up all my life. I never saw my grandmother buy water. And now my grandmother she buys the cases of water now in her home. And all I see this was is they're creating a market for people now to buy the water that everyone wants getting for free. And I
Yeah.
don't think it's right. And yeah, I don't agree with it.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much. And Shakwani, there is something that is happening now with the zoning. I don't know if you're familiar with it,
Mhm.
Shakwana, and where even our springs are going to be cut off from us. And but then we're hearing about this Jobby that might get in the water, the Jobby water that they're going to work on to get us to drink. What do you think is going on here with even with the springs being, with the access to the springs being cut off from us?
Well, for me personally, I think they always have an underlying plan. Me and Kimar both would have worked on water projects throughout St. John. I would have also worked on water projects in St. Lucie, St. James, and St. Andrew. When I mean water projects, these are areas in Barbados that don't have water, or either have water that comes out the tap brown. When I say brown, I mean it look like dirt. These persons were expected to drink this water, wash with this water, and shower with this water. Well, when you walk to the standpipe, the water was crystal clear. Nothing was wrong with the water. These people complained. Ministers said they would change it. They said it would help them. Persons had to start purchasing bottled water. If you
Mm,
have to purchase bottled water just to drink every day, then you have to get additional water just to wash clothes or shower. It is expensive. It comes at a cost. So when you make decisions that impact a country without informing them, people need to prepare. Everybody cannot afford to buy bottled water. The cheapest case of water may be $35, maybe $15, and that is only for 21, that's only for 24 bottles. So when you make choices that could impact the majority, you need to tell us how we're supposed to afford to handle it, because I can't afford to supply a household that has 8 persons with drinking water every day, along with water that they may shower with. Because who's to say that when you start this new treatment plan that the water coming through the shower would be healthy for you? Because we also need to take into consideration that we may get sick from drinking our water from the shower head. So normally you will go in the bath and wash your hair, open your mouth, get some hot water. Next minute I open my mouth, I end up at the hospital. So we're basically creating problems that we don't need. We have an excellent water system in Barbados where the water is drinkable straight from the pipe. Yes, we have some issues that can be rectified, but going towards I guess using water that was from sewage for persons to drink, I think it is reckless and is a good example of what happened to Springer, that they can go and come and say, oh, we made a mistake. It was only a trial. They can basically walk it back, because I say this government is a walk back government. As soon as they put out an idea and it's not going good or it's not running smooth, they walk it back, they adjust it and make it seem like, oh, that was just the tester. But this is something that they shouldn't even think about testing, because it is dangerous and it could do more harm than good. They need to be more accountable and realize that you cannot just put ministers in positions because they have won their seat. You need to put persons in charge of areas that actually know what they're doing. And I believe even the basic school child in first term know that drinking sewage water is not safe.
Yeah. Oh boy, thank you so much. We could go on and on and on. Kimar, before Mr. Franklin closes us out, and we're inviting everybody out to the roadside parliament. We want to discuss this a bit more and hear your views as Barbadians. And trust me, they are listening. Last week, actually, one of the comments from one of the opposition members who attended ended up on the radio, in the news. They listen, and people are listening, and it became a discussion on broadcast. So I want you to come out on Sunday at 5 o'clock and to continue. Let's talk this out and let them know how you really feel about it. Kimar, what's your last comment on this? I know we're gonna have to come back Friday and get into this more, but we only have 1 minute now tonight. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts about this?
Well, to wrap up, first I just wanna give thanks to Dawn, Shaquani, and Jonathan, as young people for showing up today and impressing on the audience. I am very, very, very proud uh, to witness that, and the future could only be great with persons like that we have here in terms of carrying the fight for Barbados. Um, Overall, the water issue, as we discussed, is very serious. But for persons like with the Abrams who take it as a joke, to tell the people of Barbados, don't be alarmed that you're already drinking this sewage water.
Oh, hold a minute. There's a feedback happening. Is it me? Okay,
Yeah,
something is
well, I'm
going
not
on.
sure.
Going on.
Probably if you have to mute everybody's mic, maybe.
Okay.
Clearer now?
Yeah. Go ahead, Kimar.
All right. So I was saying for an issue as serious as water, where you have E. coli or stool in the water, you're asking people to drink that. I think that minister or the government should be removed. One of the UN's promises to us is clean drinking water.
Kimar,
And
there's definitely it's a little counterproductive because we're not hearing each other. Let me try Caswell. Caswell, give us some final words.
Thank you so much, Marcia, for tonight. I am not easily impressed. I trust me, I am not easily impressed, but I was tonight. And all I want to ask you is, Ben, you bring back these people. You know, I was so happy that Don, Jonathan, and Shaquani were here. It tells me that our if we would just get rid of these nuisances in Parliament and get some of these young people in place, people go far. But unfortunately, it's going to be a fight to take them out. But we got the replacements, and we see some of them right here. Martin, thank you. You make me feel so good tonight. It's funny, I can go sleep. I'm not gonna sleep quickly at all. I can be thinking about these young people. I said children, but I have children older than you. So and
Yes.
trust me, I could sit down and listen to you all night. I am so happy to see somebody says I second that as well. So I'm not in the minority at all. You people are impressive, and I want you to let Barbados see it. Come out here, talk to us, let people say that we have talent and that we don't have. I hear people saying, "Oh, if Mayor Motley goes, who will run the country?" We got three here that can do it. Because there might not be any Barbados Labour Party. Nah, come forward. Let people see you. I'm seeing you and I'm impressed. And I'm sure Marcia is. And so we got Kimar, in addition to these three young people here. and if we can find 3 or 4 just like this here, there gonna be a lot more. So don't tell me that, well,
Yes.
what we will do if we don't have mayor. What we will do, we'll do much better. And I've seen tonight that we can do better right here. People, you just pose the questions to them and they answered articulately and made sense. Something that the Prime Minister does not do.
All right, Caswell. All right, Caswell.
I just want to thank you for the praises, Caswell. I'm a big fan of yours, so thanks for the kind words.
Respect, Caswell. Much respect.
Yes, let me say Kimar. So Kimar, I have to give kudos to Kimar. I told Kimar I wanted to do a show like this, because somehow, people think that it's only Kimar. And Kimar said, no, when I was talking to him, he said, no, Marcia, there's so many other young persons. And he was able to bring me to meet. I met Shaquani, and he, Jonathan, I knew Jonathan, and he got a hold of Don. He said, you've got to have this guy on, Don Leacock, And I really wanted people who were not associated with political parties. He said it was a little tough, but he got people on. And tonight we talked about issues. We didn't talk about party, and I love that. And we talk about Barbados because we love Barbados. We love the place, and we spoke about that and made recommendations, and that's what we want, But I'm going to give the final 1 minute word to Kimar, because Kimar helped tremendously to put this thing together, and also with the roadside parliament, he made a lot of connections there in his little. You could see him moving. He made a lot of connections as a young person to make the roadside parliament. That location worked, and we're going back to that location on Sunday. So I'm going to give him tonight. General, I let Kimar have the last word tonight. Go ahead, Kimar.
By all means.
Thank you very much. I feel proud to hear those kind words from you. I always feel really proud to be endorsed by Caswell, and I just want to take some of the endorsements that the audience would give to me and to share them amongst my colleagues here. I too am very impressed with everybody. I want to give Jonathan a special mention because I see Jonathan, but he doesn't. I mean, if you see him, you would never assume that he has that level of intellect, because he doesn't interact as an extrovert, one of those persons. So I was proud. Shaquani, always very proud of Shaquani. I tell her that all the time. And Dawn, I am very proud of the charity work and the amount of commitment that Dawn puts into Barbados and helping to use his slogan, build up them. So again, I'm very proud. Marcia, I mean, I don't think we thank you enough for what you're doing here. So I personally want to give you that thanks, and to celebrate. You are always celebrating others, so you want to turn it tonight now, and you want to celebrate you, and to give you the full thanks and gratitude for what you're doing for the people of Barbados. And I know that our Lord above will reward you. And Caswell, I don't even know what to say about you. You're going to be so heavily rewarded for the good work you're doing for the people of this country. So I look forward to partaking in and helping wherever I can to help to contribute and push you guys wherever you are going. I'll be there. So thank you.
Yes.
Good night.
Thank you so much for that word. Good night, everybody. And we're going to see you again on Friday. And I'm going to check up these young people and see when they can come. And I promise you, by the help of the Most High, we're going to have a roadside parliament with just young people. Me and Caswell just going to bring water. We just bring no Jobby water though. No Jobby water. All right. All right. Okay, folks. Good night. It was wonderful.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
From country and town, kick down Jericho wall.
Opposition fall in line.
Politicians run and ball. One by one, brick by brick, they crumble and fall. At the voice of the Almighty. the trumpet call. Lies and corruption at this administration. Lies and corruption, beer abomination. Lies and corruption, poverty and frustration. Lies and corruption, mashing up the nation. Lies and corruption at this administration. Lies and corruption, beer abomination. Lies and corruption, poverty and frustration. Lies and corruption, mashing up the nation.